Hey, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. And there's a little bit of feedback there, but I caught it. Hey, we're live. Yes, the date today is Sunday, April the 7th. So I was going to say 4th, but the little 4 is actually the month. Yes, April 7th, 2019. And this is episode 18 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McRae, and I'm here with Tony Michael. Tony, how the hell are you?
18, huh? 18 in Life. That's when I think of 18 in Life. It's an old school song by Skid Row for those of you who are 80s metal band fanatics like myself. Can't believe we're already at 18. 18? Doesn't seem like it.
No, it doesn't. And we'd be at like 22. We'd be at 22 or 23 if it wasn't for some of the weeks we had to take off because of the shit that we were doing.
No, but it just seems like we just started this. It doesn't seem like we've, but goddamn time, dude, we're going to be 40 in a few weeks. What the fuck?
I know. For those of you that don't know, Tony and I actually share almost the same birthday. He was born on the 29th of May, and I was born on the 24th of May. So, I mean, we're both Geminis. We're only 5 days apart. So when I was being born in a hospital in the East End of Toronto in 1979, Tony was being born in a hospital in where? In Connecticut?
Hartford, Connecticut.
5 days later.
5 days later.
Fucking believable, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Happy Guy says stream looks lower resolution than normal. Isn't it usually 1080p? No. Google Hangouts only broadcasts at 720.
Yeah.
So you gotta write a fucking letter. Write a letter right now to Google. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Hey, Tony and I today are going to be doing something a bit different now. Tony and I are not superhero guys, okay? So if you have come to this show looking for in-depth, hardcore analysis and intricate details of all the fucking shit and the people and the shit, then you've come to the wrong show. But the reason why I said to Tony a couple of days ago, hey, why don't we talk about that Joker trailer and then talk about a bit of the DCEU, Tony responded and was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. And it kind of challenges us to step out of our box. We know enough, like a basic 101 to be able to talk about it, but we can also come at it from a filmmaking point of view, sort of maybe what this could mean for the DCEU, where the DCEU went wrong, what we think they should have done. And even though we're not traditional hardcore comic book nerdy, sweaty fans, we thought because of that, ironically, it actually might be a breath of fresh air to have more of an objective point of view from two guys who aren't necessarily emotionally attached to the superhero genre. Does that make sense, everybody? I think it does.
Exactly. Because I announced it on Instagram stories here the other day, and people were asking me, oh, like, hey, are you going to talk about Killing Joke or Dark Knight? And I know that those are two very big comic books in the comic book world. I've never read it. I've never even cracked open the books. I couldn't tell you. The only thing I know about Killing Joke is the iconic Joker holding the camera up to his face pose, which, obviously being a photographer, I love that shot. That's all I know. I've never read it. I don't know. So if people who are asking me, are we going to talk about that stuff? Probably not. Because again, like Dave just said, we're not into the whole comic book world. Now, you want to talk the movies and what we know about the movies. That's where I think me and Dave are going to be coming from on this tonight's show.
Yes, exactly. And I understand that there could be a lot of hardcore fans watching the show after the fact, and even in the chat room right now, who might be really into the whole history and the universe and the connection and all the characters and shit. And I'm just not there, and I don't think Tony is either. So but I thought it would be interesting to come at it from the perspective of two guys that aren't. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you need that objective perspective looking down to kind of see things a little more clearly. So let's start talking about the DCEU in terms of, let's start with this Joker trailer. Let's fucking start with this Joker trailer. So for a long time now, we know that this Joker movie, which was a couple years ago, or not that long ago, it was even rumored that Martin Scorsese had been directing it. And then that was
DiCaprio was even rumored to play Joker at one point, right?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then that was squashed, and it was like, no, Scorsese was going to come on as like a producer, and now I don't even think he's still a producer on it anymore. I don't think, is he? I don't think
he might be. If he is, it's more of a glorified title, kind of like, you know, Carpenter was on the Halloween 2018 film. You know,
right? Exactly.
If he is. I don't even know. Are you trying?
No. We got produced by Todd Phillips, Bradley Cooper, and Emma Tillinger.
The actor Bradley Cooper.
Yes, because I think his production company. Yeah, his production company, I think, is helping with it, I believe. So it's the kind of thing where like all that was kind of happening, and it was crazy. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And people were sort of like confused. It was like, well, wait a minute. We just had a new Joker and Jared Leto introduced in Suicide Squad. You're just begun this new universe, you know, so you got Batman v Superman, you got, you know, Man of Steel, you got Wonder Woman, Aquaman was in development at the time. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, like, what the hell are you doing here, right? And Warner Brother was saying, no, this is a standalone, not connected to the DCEU. And I remember when I told my buddy Bruce that, he looked at me and he was like, the fuck? He's like, so it's not, what the fuck? And I, like, in principle, you sort of have to sit there and go, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like, and we had a long conversation about it, and we both agreed that, yeah. Anyways, before we get into that, let's because my mind's going a mile a minute. Let's well, no, I guess I should actually continue with my thought because it's kind of connected. Okay, so my buddy and I kind of thought, I think you think kind of the same thing, Tony, is that when this Joker movie began to sort of develop and we started to hear more things, and then we also know that Matt Reeves from Planet of the Apes fame has been in development on a new Batman movie called just simply The Batman.
Yeah.
And of course, Ben Affleck is not playing the Batman because this is also supposedly a standalone film all on its own, not connected to the current DCEU. And I remember when thinking about that and talking about that, I know what they're saying, but this is sort of what I like to call, and people have heard me say this on my channel, cinematic political rhetoric. Okay. There's no doubt in my mind, or at least very little doubt, that the studio cannot possibly somewhere be hoping that this might be the Joker movie, might be the beginning of, dare I say it, an alternate DCEU. Now, that doesn't mean
a better DCEU.
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that the movie's going to end on a cliffhanger or an after credit scene where all of a sudden, oh my God, it doesn't necessarily mean that. But I do believe that for the most part, this movie, I think, is probably going to stand on its own.
Yes.
But there might be a few little what seem inconsequential things in there that are left open a little bit that you could feasibly connect down the road if you need to, but you don't necessarily have to. And if you don't, nobody's any of the wiser, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And so, because I just have a hard time believing that you would put so much money and so much effort into a Joker movie and a standalone Batman. You see, if they weren't doing a standalone Batman film and they were just moving ahead with Affleck as Batman and whatever the case was, and they were just doing this one-off Joker thing off to the side because somebody just had this really great idea, I might think, oh, okay, sure, all right. But the fact that you've also got a standalone Batman film coming, I'm just skeptical that somebody somewhere has not said, let's not say anything because we don't want to piss off the fans that are loving what we're doing. And we don't want to piss off the filmmakers and the actors that are under contract with us, who are under contract for a few more films. And unless we have to buy everybody out, right? Like, what are we going to recast all the characters? Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman? You know what I'm saying? Like, they almost feel like they've kind of got themselves into a corner here. You know, how do you see it, Tony? Do you see it the same way, that something like you hear what they're saying, but you're kind of like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you know, unfortunately, just to kind of backstep it here before talking about the trailer, the DC universe, really was trying to play the catch-up game to Marvel. rather than focusing in on itself, becoming its own identity, its own brand. They were trying to rush projects, get Justice League out there, get Batman v Superman, spoiler alert, bring in Batman v Superman. You've got Doomsday and killing off Superman. Like, we're already there with Henry Cavill's second film. Like, we've only had one film with him as Man of Steel as Superman. Give me like 2 or 3 films before we get to Doomsday and killing him off and all that stuff. Like, they were so, and I understand, it's the movie business, it's competitive, and you're trying to compete with your biggest competitor, which is Marvel in this case, when you're talking about the two, big colossus of the comic book world, Marvel and DC. But had they just taken a breath, taken a beat, really thought about, have someone in there like a Kevin Feige who has this projection, has this game plan. Because what I liked about what I saw in Joker, this brings it back to what you said off camera a few moments ago, to the Chris Nolan's Batman movies that he did there in the early 2000s, and that sense of realism. Not relying on CGI too much, but making it seem like this is real world shit that's going down. Had they had done this from the get-go, like what we said here just a few moments ago before going live, if this was their starting point, this would be a fucking great starting point for the DC universe. And this is probably what they should have done. I'm not knocking anybody out there who's a fan of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Justice League and Batman v Superman, but you got to admit, even Suicide Squad, there are some pluses to talk about, in Suicide Squad, Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn is phenomenal. Unfortunately, it's shadowed by a shitty fucking movie, but she delivers a great performance, and I want to see more of Margot Robbie playing Harley Quinn because she's a great Harley Quinn. Sorry, but I wasn't signed up for Leto's Joker. I'm not hating on him as an actor. Dude's a great actor. He's one of the best, but just his Joker didn't do it for me. The only Jokers that I've been a fan of are Cesar Ramon's, which is going back to Adam West Batman, and then of course Nicholson in Tim Burton's Batman, and then Ledger's, but now seeing this with Joaquin Phoenix, who's a phenomenal freaking actor. And I know some people have already talked about how he won't do sequels and they're not going to do sequels. Look, at the end of the day, if there's a good script there and the movie does well, I wouldn't be hard pressed, like what you're saying here, that he will have some type of involvement in future endeavors. Should this be the new jumpstart for whatever Marvel, DC is going to be doing for their cinematic universe?
I absolutely agree. This is the thing. Really, when the beginning of the DCEU, in my opinion, really should have been the Nolan Batman trilogy. Sure. That really should have been the beginning, because I understand that Marvel was just killing it. And for the most part, again, I'm not,
about a 10-year head start too.
Absolutely. And I'm not
literally, guys, for people who are about to correct.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a figure of speech. Yeah. But I understand that there was a formula that worked, and for the most part, the Marvel films are funny and they're entertaining and they're bombastic and they're spectacle. They're popcorn movies. The Nolan Batman films were grounded in real world. They were very not necessarily popcorn summer blockbuster films. They were in the traditional sense. I mean, they were more just. They were very good, but they were a sense of action sort of adventure, and cop like a cop movie or something to that effect. And of course that lends itself well with the kind of Crusader Batman is. But this is the thing, that you're right, Tony, when you say that DC was playing catch up to Marvel because they saw something that worked. Instead of doing their own thing and being successful on their own merits, they saw the enormous success that Marvel was having and felt that must be the way to do it. Well, that's a way to do it, but it's not necessarily the only way to do it. And you want to be able to stand on your own. Yeah. Now, there is a bit of a conundrum that you run into, is that Batman, the character of Batman, lends himself really well to a real world type of movie. Superman, you start getting into Aquaman and you start getting into Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman may be a little more than Superman, but there are certain DC characters that are very cartoony and comic booky that might not lend themselves so well to a real world gritty sort of narrative. And I understand that. So that might have been an issue. But you know what? I think it was worth giving it a shot. It was worth entertaining at the very least, because you were essentially starting over with Man of Steel. And I didn't like Man of Steel as much as some people did, but I
thought it had some positive beats to it. Like,
oh, it did. Henry Cavill was great.
Yeah, Costner and Diane Keaton were great as the Kents. I wasn't totally, signed up to what's her name playing Lois Lane. Amy Adams, I think is her name. Yeah. I mean, she's a great actress, but I didn't. I don't know. I just wasn't really. I don't know. When you compare it to like Margot Kidder, which is is not a fair.
Margot Kidder, yeah,
it's not a fair thing to do. And I'm skipping over Superman Returns there with Kate Bosworth. Yeah, I think that was who played her in Superman.
I believe so. Yes.
It's just like, yeah, I'm with you. Like there were elements to Man of Steel that I like, but then again, it heavily relied on the CGI, and they were trying to do what the Marvel universe was doing and making it that kind of, the relying on the special effects. When you look at the actual the DC universe and what has worked, you look at 1978-77 Superman, the movie, the first one with Christopher Reeve, and even the sequel, with Superman 2. Then you look at Tim Burton's Batman, and then you take also Chris Nolan's Batman movies, and if you use that as the foundation, you get this new Joker film. They're not relying, even though, okay, yes, I know they used a form of, in the 70s CGI, whatever they were using back then. But when you look at, like in Superman 2, the street fight between him and Zod and Zod's two people there, that's very realistic looking. You know what I mean? I mean, even though it is CGI, it's not the over the top. When you look at the fight between Zod and him in Man of Steel, my God, the CGI in that is horrible and took me right out of it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and folks, we are going to get back to Joker here in a second. For me, my major issue with Man of Steel was actually none of that. It was more just the relationship or lack thereof with Lois. Yeah. And I found that Lois, the heart of the Superman story is the relationship between Superman and Lois Lane, very much like a Rocky and Adrian.
Not only that, it's his adversary, which is Lex Luthor. And I'm sorry, but I mean, Jesse Eisenberg, is that his name? How you say his name?
Yeah, but that wasn't until Batman v Superman.
But like you're saying, even that, the dynamic relationship between him and Lois and him and Lex, like that is such a critical factor to the Superman story that both the actors who were bouncing off of Cavill, it was horrible. I mean, it was ridiculous to watch.
It was, and my problem though was that she finds out that Clark Kent and Superman are the same man in the first movie. Right. It wasn't until halfway through the second movie in the old films that she finally finds out who it is. And so you erase a lot of the magic and charm, between those characters. I understand that it's a new version and that's fine. But anyway, so the DCEU, okay, so when they decided to not include Nolan's Batman trilogy and start fresh with Man of Steel, the mistake they made was not following up with a Man of Steel 2 and jumping right into Batman v Superman. Right. This is the crux of the problem, no matter how you slice it. One of the reasons why Marvel was so successful is because they built their movies like television shows. Yep. They built their narrative. They allowed their audiences to become emotionally attached to the characters and the actors portraying those characters. They took their time. They began unofficially with The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton in 2007, I think it was.
I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, well, that was unofficially sort of the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you want to say a little more officially, it probably would have been Iron Man in 2008. But you think about that, and here we are in 2019. That's 11, 12 years later, and what, 20 something films. I mean, you've really become emotionally attached. They milked it like a soap opera. You know, tune in next week. Every movie ends connected to the larger sort of thing, and you find out whether it's a middle credit sequence, an after credit sequence, something at the end, you know, whatever it is. It's like, and tune in, same bat time, same bat channel. I mean, that's how the Marvel Cinematic Universe was playing it, and they kept the same characters, apart from Don Cheadle, of course. He, you know, I guess, yeah, from the first Iron Man to the second Iron Man, I was a bit different. But the point I'm making is that the audience fell in love with not just the spectacle of the movies, but the actors. They became emotionally attached.
Yep.
And that's not what the DC universe just, I mean, we should not have had a Batman v Superman after Man of Steel. We hadn't even had a Batman movie yet. We hadn't even had a Wonder Woman movie yet. You know, so really it should have been Man of Steel 2. Now this is up for debate on the exact order, but it should have been something like this. Man of Steel 2, the Batman, Batman v Superman without Wonder Woman. Then you have a Wonder Woman movie, and then a Flash movie. And that, like, we should just right now be getting to Justice League.
Right.
Like now. Okay. And this is because then we've had 6 or 7 years of being really invested in these characters, not just the universes that's being created, but I'm really invested in Henry Cavill now. I'm really invested in Ben Affleck. And there was no time. The very first time we saw Aquaman, essentially, in really doing anything was in it was in Justice League. Like, what the? I don't understand this. Like, I'm supposed to care about him. I don't know who the fuck he is. I mean, we know who he is, but I think you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Sure.
So that was structurally the problem. If they had actually done it the way that I said, and it would have given audiences more time, but they felt like for whatever reason, felt like if they didn't play it Marvel's way, that they would just be lost in the dust. And ironically, you wouldn't have. Stand on your own 2 feet, you know, and that's a great segue into this Joker trailer.
Because you're talking about DC, they have 4 of the most iconic characters, both superhero and villains, in all of comic book history. Superman, Batman, Joker, and Lex Luthor can be argued as, you know, also as one of the iconic villains of all time. You're talking about those 4 key characters alone. These are iconic characters that basically, when you do the math in the sales between Superman and Batman on comic books, they blow out everybody out the water. But unfortunately, since Donner's versions of Superman and Nolan's versions of Batman, we just unfortunately have just gotten shit.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we're not big comic book people, but arguably the 2 most iconic superheroes in superhero history are with DC, Batman and Superman. And arguably the one that stands above them all would be Superman. He is that doesn't mean that people in the chat room or somebody watching doesn't like Batman better or Wonder Woman better, but we're talking about in the big picture, Superman is the poster child of a superhero. Yep. And so, it's unfortunate. And when I saw the Joker trailer, getting to the Joker trailer now, and again, at the beginning of the show, Tony and I are not fully convinced that this Joker trailer is not, at the very least, possibly, maybe they're hoping the beginning of a separate alternate DCEU. Doesn't mean it's going to be, but I do not buy that. No, it's just a one-off we just wanted to do. Yeah, okay, but I think there's a little more chicken on the plate than that.
I agree.
So when I watched this trailer, I loved it. It's one of the best trailers I've seen to a movie in a long time.
And it's funny,
a long time.
They finally get it. Look, and I understand everybody back in the day, like, and this is like, you know, social media was still kind of in its infancy, but man, I remember the fucking shitstorm people, you know, were, you know, with Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker and everyone, you know.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably almost the perfect fit, because if anyone knows Joaquin Phoenix and his eccentric behavior, he's literally tailor-made for this character.
Dude, when Joaquin Phoenix was cast, I stand to be corrected, because I don't want to say that Bruce did say this, But my buddy Bruce, I think I stand to be corrected. If I was to ask him, he might be like, no, I didn't think that at all. But I thought it was him that he was like, really, Joaquin Phoenix? Anyway, whoever I talked to that was like, I don't know. I was fully on board with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. As soon as it was announced that he was cast, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I'm not of the mindset. You guys know me. If you're not new to my channel, I do not believe that Robert Englund is the only person that can play Freddy. I do not believe that Heath Ledger is the only person that can play the Joker. And I always found it funny when people are like, he's the best Joker there's ever been. There's only been 2 others before him. Like, let's calm down, everybody. Okay. No one will ever be better than Heath Ledger. And it's impossible. No, it's not impossible.
And
it's not.
That debate and argument here, not to get sidetracked, but I just want to say, since you brought that up, you're talking about when you're comparing Ledger and Nicholson, okay? You can't do that because it's 2 completely different styles in filmmaking between Tim Burton and Chris Nolan's. Jack delivered the Joker that was 89-90 in the Burton type style universe, and
it was the comic book Joker,
right? And it was perfect. Ledger delivered us what real world, fucked up in the head, menacing. Michael Myers almost like Joker in the Nolan universe. So when people compare, like, neither one was better. They both were fucking great. But this, getting back on track here to Joaquin and what you were starting to say. This dude, like I just said a moment ago, he was tailor fucking made for this character, because watching it, I'm like, that's the fucking Joker I've been waiting to see for a long time.
Yes, 100%. And when I watched the trailer, it once again has that Nolan-esque real world feel. That doesn't mean it's going to be like that, but it takes place in the 70s, right? It's got a gritty New York vibe to it. We're seeing the streets. I love it as well. And it's a brilliant move, because the Joker character, even though he's a little eccentric and bombastic in the 60s TV show, and Nicholson as well plays that kind of a Joker.
Trickster.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you want to take that archetype and put him in a real world situation, you immediately have to go and start talking about the psychology of this type of an individual. And then you start going, okay, well, let's say we were to make a serious movie about this guy, about him, not him in a movie with Batman or whatever the case is, but just a standalone movie about that character in a serious way. It immediately becomes a psychological thriller. Yeah. I mean, immediately, not necessarily in the vein of like Prisoners or, something like that, but I just mean yes, the psychological component to it. It's a character study of somebody going mad. Now, that doesn't mean that him going mad is justified. That doesn't mean how many times you get beat up on the street or punched in the face or laughed at or go, ha, 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 whatever the case is, that justifies you murdering people and becoming one of the greatest crime people in the history of New York. No, it doesn't. Or Gotham, I should say. Right, because it's not New York, it's Gotham. But no, it doesn't mean that. There's no justification for where he ends up. It doesn't matter how much you're abused or how awful your childhood was or whatever the case is. There's no justification. That might be the reason for the downfall. And then you have to look at the steps of how someone got there. But there's no justification to becoming obviously evil and horrible. But the fact that when you take a character like Joker, that archetype, and put him in a real world situation, and you want to do a movie about him, you cannot do you can't do a Joker solo film now. Okay. Right. He's not fighting against anybody. It immediately becomes a character study. It immediately becomes a character study. Batman will rarely be in a Batman movie without somebody he's fighting. Okay. But the Joker, on the other hand, there's many more deeper psychological layers to him. And how he goes mad. And Joaquin Phoenix was a brilliant choice. Very talented actor. And he's got the look, he's got the demeanor. He comes from a talented family. I mean, his brother, of course, would have been his brother if he were alive today. If River Phoenix were alive today, he would be up there with DiCaprio. I mean, he was a brilliant child actor who was just taken way too soon.
With River Phoenix, one could argue that the roles that DiCaprio got, River Phoenix may have gotten it first.
May have.
Those pretty boy, guys
Yep.
from 90s.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny to, what's funny with Joaquin Phoenix? I didn't know this until I came across the movie the other day. He's in Parenthood, the Steve Martin film.
Yes, he is from 1989, I think. Yes. Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's Joaquin Phoenix. And it didn't, I'm like,
that's a great movie.
Yeah.
That's if nobody has seen that movie, it's directed by Ron Howard. It's called Parenthood. It's a combination of different families and their stories. Keanu Reeves is in it.
Yeah.
Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, good Canadian guy, Rick Moranis. He's in it as well. And Joaquin Phoenix. And you forget oh my God, that's Joaquin Phoenix, because he's and he was a good looking kid too, man. Right up there with his, like they were him, River, good looking boys, man, and it's just, it's so unfortunate what happened to River. But anyway, so when I watched the Joker trailer, what stood out to me was like, oh yeah, I'm digging this. And then of course, seeing his performance and now again, this doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. The movie could be a pile of dog shit. Like I said on my social media, if you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and if you don't, what the fuck are you waiting for? Anyway, I said on Twitter and I said on Facebook, I said there have been great trailers to bad movies and bad trailers to great movies. So it doesn't mean that this is going to be a great movie. But if this trailer is any indication of what to expect, then this is where the DCEU should have begun. You know what I mean? Is this should be the beginning, and then you start here, and some people speculate that might be what they're doing, but we'll get to that in a second. But I loved it. I love the gritty feel. I loved his performance. I loved the way that he seemed almost I
like how they started off in the trailer. He looks like a broken man.
Yeah.
At the end, he's got his swagger. You know what I mean?
He's got his swagger, but he also seems like there's a childlike sort of naive, simple component about him. And I don't mean that he's mentally challenged or anything, but he's got a naivety. He seems little, social. Well, he's definitely socially awkward, and he doesn't appear to have the maturity of social skills, which puts him in a certain zone, and he doesn't know how to relate to other people, and it can be almost very much like those of you that deal, with some autistic people or children, depending on where you are on the autistic scale, because there's a spectrum, of course. Some, there are some that are very socially awkward or having a bit of trouble, speaking. They're too formal, or they're they don't know how to act, or whatever the case is. And he, in this trailer, not saying that he would be autistic, but I'm just saying that he's got that social awkwardness about him, and he doesn't really know, and he's trying to find his way. It's a character study that we're seeing the evolution and beginnings of one of the greatest superhero villains in history. And that is a fascinating take of where it may or should have begun. What do you think, Tony?
No, I agree. I in watching this trailer, and just to kind of rehash what I just said here a moment ago, when you see what I also like, they didn't show too much of him. I just kind of sidetracked myself there for a moment, but
as Joker, right?
As Joker, they didn't show him doing his shit. You know what I mean? Like anything evil. So we have no idea how menacing he's going to get. And I'm almost like, you know what, guys? I don't need to see it until the movie comes out in October. We're only a few months away from it. I kind of like what they've shown me. I know we're going to get probably another full-blown trailer and him doing his shit. But I liked what they showed. And what I was starting to say here at the beginning, he looks like a broken man. He gets jumped by the punks there, in the beginning of the trailer. And then leading up to that point where he's on the subway. And then when he gets decked, he takes the punch. And it's almost like that's that triggering point of like, Fuck yeah, that's the joke. Because for me, the Joker, and again, I'm not a comic book guy, but in talking, like, here's an example. In talking to my brother about it, who's a total, he should have been here tonight and helping us out because he's the comic book guy in the family, and I'm the horror guy in the family. He basically summed up Joker. He said, if you were to take Jason, Michael, Freddy, merge them together into one character, it's the Joker. You know, that really is who the Joker, the true Joker. If you know the character, that is who the Joker is. And Heath Ledger, and I'm speaking now for my brother, Heath Ledger's performance was great. It was still very tamed because in the comic books, I mean, I guess there's a scene like at a Tonight Show or something like that, or in one of the Batman comic books where like the Joker literally like kills everybody in the room. And the comic book doesn't hold back on it. So that's the kind of shit I'm like, yeah, I want to see this. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to like paint myself as a psycho here, but that's kind of the Joker that I've been waiting to see. I love Jax. I love Cesar Ramon's portrayal from the, Adam West 60s TV show. And I love Ledger's, but I just feel like, man, let's just loosen up the reins here and someone just give me balls to the wall fucking Joker. And I think we're going to get it with this film or very close to it.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I agree with you. I really liked the pacing of the trailer. I liked the editing of the trailer, and I liked the order and sequence of events for which they told their story within the trailer, but stopped it from going too far and showing him going mad. And well, in terms of actually killing anybody, getting revenge on anybody, really becoming whatever he's going to become. And that's fascinating to me because we've yet to actually see what is his, I mean, we got a bit of, we see him on the subway, right? He's there and, he's he's doing a kind of weird kind of laugh, and is he trying it out? Is that really what he's doing? Is he going insane? There's also that shot in the trailer where it looks like he's at some club or bar where he doesn't have any makeup on, and he's kind of, he's there and he goes, ha 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 ha, it's almost like he's coming to his own, like he's trying something or he's feeling something. He's self-discovering who he believes he is. And remember, some of the greatest villains don't see themselves as villains. Okay. I mean, they really don't. And you have to remember that what the hell is his name? Flex, whatever his name is in the movie. What is he? What the hell is his name? Somebody's going to get to it already. But Arthur Fleck. Yeah, that's it. So you have to think that Arthur Fleck, what's eventually going to happen is he becomes who he is, and he's justifying who he becomes in his own mind. And it's a combination of the things that he goes through. Sorry?
And you know what I want, Dave, so bad, because you mentioned here, or someone in the chat room mentioned it. I would love, and I know, I still think the sequel thing is up for debate, but I would love, and I don't care what anyone says, like it's not connected and all that stuff. I'm just talking about the two actors themselves, Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn, and Joaquin Phoenix, or what we see of his Joker together on screen. Fucking A, I'd love to see that. The chemistry I'm sure would be amazing. And just her nuttiness in Suicide Squad, I really liked. Again, I just felt like it just didn't fit the film. I would love to see her dropped into this universe.
Yeah. Just side note, Suicide Squad was shot in Toronto, and I was actually down at Dundas Square when they were shooting the whole Batman on top of the Joker's car scene. Okay. That whole scene there is right in the heart of downtown TO. So for those of you that don't know, TO means Toronto. That's what we call TO here. Toronto, the big smoke, whatever.
In the States, that's Terrell Owens. It's a wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was right downtown. I went down there and I was down there checking it out in 2016, I think it was. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know if her character would translate into the grittier, more real, grounded universe that this Joker movie appears in. But I see what you're saying, and I just really like this combination of this real world and this Joker of Joaquin Phoenix. He's a brilliant actor, Academy Award winning, I believe, right? He won for Walk the Line. He was nominated at the very least.
Nominated for Walk the Line. I think Reese Witherspoon won for Walk the Line, he was only nominated. He was nominated.
He was only nominated. Okay. But he's a brilliant actor. And this is just a fit. And I love the feel of the trailer. Naturally, there will be another trailer, obviously, because that's just the way marketing works. And depending on whether you like that or not is totally up for debate. And whether they should or that or not is totally up for debate. But studios just feel that, no, we have to market the shit out of things because we cannot run the risk of losing millions and millions of dollars. So there will be another trailer for Joker, no doubt, probably sometime in the June, July, maybe something like that. Maybe a bit sooner, but I would suspect maybe more around there in the summer because the movie doesn't come out till October. So there will be another one where we will see some of the clips we saw in this trailer, but there will be a little more that they will give us. And
for October,
sorry.
I think it's a smart move too for an October drop. I think they're going to, try to off of what Venom did last year, because Venom was a darker, comic book movie, and I'm liking that. I'm also liking that you're seeing a lot of horror movies dropping more so in October, rather than the freaking August, September nonsense, which never made sense to me, But yeah,
I mean, unless it's summer can work for horror. But it's got to be good. I mean, look, at the end of the day, winning solves everything. Yeah. And The Conjuring was a July movie. And the reason why The Conjuring did really well in the summer is because it was a good movie. And it got great word of mouth. Insidious, I think, was a spring film. But it was a great movie and got great word of mouth. Yeah. Now, if you have a movie that is very specific to the fall season, like Halloween, or a horror movie that just takes place in autumn, and that season is very, is like a character in the movie, then it might work to your benefit to release it in the fall. I agree. But when I think of the Batman currently in development, and Matt Reeves is going to be directing that, and apparently this is going to be a younger Batman. Well, when I think about the decade that this Joker movie takes place in, okay, which is the 70s, right?
81. Close.
Sorry?
81. Close enough.
It's 81? I thought it was the 70s.
I think it's set in 81 from what I read on the synopsis.
Okay, let's say late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. So now this is a time in Gotham when obviously Bruce Wayne is probably a kid, I would imagine. I don't get the sense that in this timeline, in this movie, Bruce Wayne is an adult right now. I don't get that sense just by what I've been reading about in terms of Bruce Wayne's father and, the company and all this. So if you think about it, if this Batman movie is a standalone film taking place in the 90s, which is for what people are saying, they're going younger. It's one of the reasons why, well, the reason why Ben Affleck's not going to be the Batman is because it's primarily not going to be connected to the larger DCEU. That's one reason. Another reason is because they want to go younger. That is pretty much out on the table. They want to go younger. Well, if this is a Batman that takes place in the late 80s, early 90s, and you got Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could connect these two movies. I'm not saying.
You wonder if they're going to go the route of Joker killing Bruce Wayne's parents.
Yes,
it does make me think that and wonder, are they gonna go down that road? Which I know that and look, if you're the diehard comic book fan, that's y'all's debate. I have no argument in that fight. Because I know there's, I don't know if in the comic book world, I don't believe the Joker had anything to do with Bruce Wayne's parents. I think that was something Tim Burton added into his film back in '89.
Right.
I'm not against the idea. I'm cool with the background being the Joker being the reason for maybe the triggering point for Bruce Wayne to becoming who he ultimately becomes. I'm okay with that. I know there's a debate on it. And again, I'm not going to get into that fight or, try to, win anybody over. I'm just saying it as a film enthusiast and someone who enjoys movies. I'm okay with that story. What about you?
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. And I do know that there's a shot in the trailer that it hasn't been confirmed nor denied. That, of course, where
Kid.
Arthur Fleck, is making the kid smile, that some people speculate could be Bruce Wayne, and it could very well be. It may not be. It may just be some random kid that Arthur sees on the street and wants to give him a smile and has a conversation with him, and it's just a nice point of exposition that we get to know more about who Arthur is. I mean, it might not have anything to do with Batman, but if it is, that would make sense. What can you imagine? And what would this mean then? Because it would totally throw everything. Well, not necessarily, because it still could be a standalone movie, and you don't have to do another movie after this. No. I am a firm believer, and I do believe this. Not everything has to be fucking connected. Years ago, there were no cinematic universes. Years ago, we didn't need everything to be explained for us and all the backstories and the shit. That's why when I hear people say, do you think we should have a Dr. Loomis back? No. Do you think maybe we should? No. But what about the Smith? No.
Sorry, guys.
I don't
Dave's
need
having
to
an
know.
aneurysm at the moment.
I don't need to know. I don't want to know. I'm old school that way, I guess. I just can't get with it. Do you think we should? It's like that cartoon of Batman slapping Robin.
Oh yeah, pow.
You know, where pow, whatever it is. It's like, do you think we need to know about Loomis? No. Adam West and Burt Ward.
Fort Ward, thank you.
Burt Ward, that's right. Yeah, I need to. Do you think Dr. Loomis should? No. Anyway, so
so if really quick that the 60s Batman, I loved in the trailer that I can't say it, someone correct me in the chat room, but it reminded me of his outfit at the end. It reminds me of the Cesar Ramon Joker outfit. Very much so. It may not be the exact same, but it very much reminded me of that. Yeah,
it's got that vibe to it. It definitely has that vibe to it. 100%. This is so what I'm about to say. If it did hypothetically, if the Joker movie did hypothetically end this way, this doesn't mean that that they would do a sequel. It might make a lot of fans angry if they don't, but it just might be an incredible way to end the movie. But if they do end the movie like this, it definitely brings up a boatload of questions to what they're thinking here with this Joker film. What would you do, Tony? And what would all you do in the chat room? What would everybody think in the chat room if this Joker movie ends on a cliffhanger of Arthur Fleck as the Joker murdering Bruce Wayne's parents? That's how the movie ends. So the movie, we see him go mad. It's a great psychological character study. We see him kill people that are not have anything to do with Bruce Wayne or whatever the case is, right? Because that's part of the transition from Arthur Fleck to the Joker. We see him becoming that madman. But at the very end of the movie, there's a moment that like the final scene is him killing Bruce Wayne's parents. Now, how? Maybe they're going to want to do it a bit differently than the traditional way that we've come to know, right? So there might be there's only so many ways that you can do it without it being really dumb. But what I'm saying is that that's where the movie ends. And maybe it ends on Bruce Wayne, the little boy. He sees this and he's looking up, and the Joker, not Arthur Fleck, the Joker is looking down at him, right? And the music is sort of building, and then it just cuts to black. And It's like, damn, what the fuck? Right? But then if they did that, damn well this whole standalone is very up in the air. Very, very up in the air. Because even though you don't have to make a movie from that, okay? You don't have to make a movie from that because you know the story. You might not know this story, but you know the story. You know how that goes. So you don't necessarily have to. But if they did, it would give me goosebumps, especially if the rest of the movie up to that point is really good, you know?
Actually, Travis, that's funny you say that. Travis Henderson just said, "You ever dance with the devil in the pale of moonlight?" I was just thinking, as long as they don't say that line,
no, you can't say that.
We don't need to go there. But my favorite Batman Joker film of all time is Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah,
that is my personal favorite. I mean, that was such a huge influence.
Want to get nuts? What's the nuts?
It's such a huge movie. That was, my first childhood experience of a summer blockbuster film. Because back in 89, 90, man, this thing was monsters. Like, you guys don't understand.
Huge.
The marketing for this thing was insane.
And Batman Returns a couple years later was humongous because of the success of Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's always been my, my personal favorite, and will always be. I mean, it was the first one for me. I mean, I didn't grow up like my father and parents did with the 60s with Adam West. Even though I saw it in the house, I just never was like, whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that type of connection of, the Joker killing off, Wayne's parents. And then, yeah, having that like kind of like moment of, you do like a close zoom up on the kid's face and you just see the pupils turn to black. For Dark Knight.
Or something like that. Or you get a real sense of how sadistic Arthur has become. He's looking down at Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is looking up, and maybe he's crying, or he runs in the corner and he grabs the kid and he just starts going, or something where he's not necessarily, but you can see him just, it's so cold. It's so cold. He doesn't give a fuck about this kid. But it's done in a really, really good way. Like, it's not like it's really like you sit there and you go, fuck. And it ends on like a real, no pun intended for, dark, but a real dark note, and it's just kind of like, wow. And but that's, I'm not saying that that's what they should do. I'm not saying that's what they have done and that's what we're going to see. But those are the kind of balls, and that's the kind of grittiness and shit that needs to, that's what DC should have been doing all along. Yeah. Because you have to differentiate yourself from Marvel. Marvel is glitzy, glamoury, popcorny, comic booky, big, flowery. Okay, Marvel got to it first and they're doing it really well. So no matter how successful you are, you will always be playing catch up and you'll always be compared to Marvel because Marvel just got to it first. Yeah. Okay, so it's just a numbers game now. Look what you did with Nolan's Batman. I still think that should have been the beginning. And I also think it was a mistake this is a side note, but a mistake not to even mention the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises. And
yeah, I didn't get that.
Well, Nolan's excuse was, well, it's out of respect for, it's a fuck off, Nolan. Like, out of respect. Come on. It's been 4 years since he died. Mention it. It was weird. It was weird that he wasn't mentioned. Yeah, it was really weird and dumb. I didn't agree with that decision at all. If I was the studio, I would have been like, no, that's just dumb. You mention him. You can mention. What the hell? Was he the president or something? He's an actor that died, and it's sad and that's unfortunate, but it's not like he left on a bad note. What the hell is not mentioning him is honoring him somehow? Give me a break.
We get the stupid ending there with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's little Robin mention. I'm like, okay, so we can mention Robin, but we can't mention the Joker at all. Okay,
right. Yeah, and Nolan's even said that mention was never to allude that Gordon-Levitt was actually that Robin.
Right,
and I'm like, fuck off. Then why mention it?
Right, Batman movie.
What? Of course it was. Maybe in your mind you didn't have it set in stone, but don't look at me with a straight face and say that you didn't mention that to sort of put that out there in the pop culture consciousness to get people to go, oh, you think? Oh, I don't know. Do you think? Oh, maybe you think. Of course that's why you did that. Because why is his name not Bob then? You know what I mean? Like, it makes no fucking sense. Anyway. So I think it's a real sort of shame that the DCEU didn't sort of glom onto that. But this is, and I know, like, you're kind of in a conundrum now, right? So what if Joker's successful? What if, okay, so here's the thing. What if Joker is successful, but doesn't end on the whoa cliffhanger that I said? It wraps up, for all intents and purposes, pretty sort of completely, okay? So it is pretty much a standalone film. But like I said at the top of the broadcast, there might be a few things in there that were left open, even unbeknownst to the viewer, just in case they want to come back to that universe with Joaquin Phoenix. So let's say the Joker's really successful, and the Batman that comes out a couple years from now, or whatever it is really successful. what now? Because now you have these two standalone movies, which are great.
What if he dies? But see, then that might piss a lot of people off because Joker is tied to Batman, and it's like you're totally eliminating that whole connection too. So you really can't kill him off.
Well, that's true. Or because it's a standalone film, maybe you do. Maybe they'll have the ball.
That's a big ballsy move.
A big ballsy move. But wouldn't that say, yes, this is a standalone movie that's not going to be connected to anything? I'm not convinced. I'm not I understand Joaquin doesn't do sequels. I admire that. Okay, great. But at the end of the day, if this thing is really good and his performance is really good, and remember, you don't have to be nominated for an Academy Award for a performance to be considered really good. You know, it's if you get nominated, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. But if his performance is just really good and it's critically well received and the movie does really well, and then the Batman movie comes along, I'm just like, it's so tempting. If I was the head of the studio, I would look at, because you peaked too soon in the current DCEU and you were just fucking off where you fucked up. I'm not saying that Wonder Woman wasn't good. I'm not saying that Aquaman didn't entertain people and wasn't good in its own right. But for the most part, the DCEU, whether you're talking about Batman v Superman, whether you're talking about Justice League, whether you're talking about, Suicide Squad, whatever the case, it's fucked up. It's disjointed. It doesn't feel good, right? When you think of the DCEU, you don't feel good in the ways that you feel when you think of Marvel and the completeness and the fulfilledness that you have when you think of their universe. You don't feel that when you think of the DCEU. So if this Joker, real world, is really successful, and Batman, here's the thing, even Matt Reeves has said, the Batman's going to be a little more like a crime, thriller kind of. Well, what does that? Okay, it's going to be more of a crime thriller. Like those things have been out there. Well, what does that say? Real world, perhaps? Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's almost like, so it's not going to be the bombastic comic booky Batman. It's going to, no, it's going to be like, it's like a crime kind of like, suspenseful, investigative. And then I see this Joker trailer and I'm like, if this Joker is really successful and Batman is really successful, how can you not be the studio head and think, oh, fuck, this is tempting to build these two into each other somehow. How could you not? How could you not?
It's true. No, I agree. And I agree with what everybody's saying in the chat room. Somebody's going to have to maybe DM me one day on Instagram because I'm confused on what they're talking about right now, but I'm watching the chatting going along. And no, because I agree, because I've always felt that I would love to see the third Batman that Tim Burton and Michael Keaton wanted to do to bookend their trilogy properly with the older version now of Batman. But I always thought, and somebody maybe can paraphrase it in the chat room, I thought that old Batman was The Dark Knight Returns, and I see some people saying it's Batman Beyond. So remember, I don't read this stuff, so that's why I'm kind of confused. I know about it. I know about the old Batman story. I just thought it was called Dark Knight Returns and not Batman Beyond. So somebody can help me out with that one. But I agree with what you guys are talking about in there. I would love to, even though that would be a one and done film, and it would complete the trilogy of the first two films, I would love to see, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton go at it one more time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know how I feel about that, but that would be
story. There is an actual, there's an old Batman story. I just don't know the name of it, and that's why I'm confused with what they're talking about in the chat.
Right. I got you.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, it's an interesting route that you could take. I mean, and for those of you that have just joined us at the top of the show, like I said, Tony and I are not superhero guys. So I don't pretend to know all the ins and out of the Marvel. I mean, I haven't seen, out of the 21 Marvel films, I may have seen maybe 3 or 4 of them, honest to goodness. And that's not because I don't like those movies, or I'm just not into them, so I see them when I see them, kind of thing, right? Like those of you that are really excited about Avengers Endgame right now, and they're like, oh my god, this is gonna, like, it's like your Star Wars, maybe even bigger than what you're feeling is what I felt when I saw The Force Awakens, or what I felt prior to going in to see The Last Jedi, and unfortunately I left feeling a different way. But it's I live vicariously through you. I think it's awesome that you're really excited about that. So Tony and I are not really comic book guys at the end of the day. So we're doing this show coming at it from sort of an outsider's perspective, but we know enough to be able to talk about, the 101. So it's been kind of fun sort of kibitzing back and forth about this, because I think we're onto something. I'm not fully convinced that this joke, I think it's a standalone now, but I'm not convinced it will remain a standalone.
No, I agree. I mean, look, money talks, bullshit walks. That's what they always say, right?
Hey, that should be the name of our show.
Money talks and bullshit walks. Whatever I just said. I don't know. Money talks and bullshit walks. But no, you're right.
Money walks and bullshit talks. What?
Yeah, something like that. No, I agree. I think that this could, very much like we've said, could be the proper starting point for this new DCEU universe. And I want to thank Brandon Gregory, who clarified what my confusion was. In Batman Beyond, Bruce Wayne is teaching someone, Terry McGinnis, whoever that is, I'm guessing Robin or Nightwing or whatever, someone clarify that for me, to become the new Batman. And in Dark Knight Returns, that's the one I was thinking of, where it's Batman, but it's Bruce Wayne, but he's older and he's still Batman. That's the one that I wouldn't mind seeing Tim Burton and Michael Keaton do together, and to, like I said, give their trilogy, because I think they were going to do a third film, but they wanted to do a darker route, but the studio didn't want to do it in the 90s. They went with that whole campy, lighthearted, Val Kilmer and George Clooney, route, which ultimately killed Batman, in that part of that run. So I wouldn't mind seeing Burton and Keaton get the proper deservings to complete their trilogy. So thank you, Brandon, for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Yes. So hang on here. Try looking something up. Yes. Something I want to say too is shit. What the fuck was I going to say now? I totally lost my train of thought. I was going to say, no, that wasn't what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Damn. I forget what I was going to say. Somebody in the chat said, I don't think it's Travis Hendrickson says, I don't think Scorsese would produce if it wasn't a standalone, though. Well, that's the thing. Scorsese's no longer producing. He was attached to the project for a while, but he is no longer and hasn't been attached to the project in quite some time. So, yeah. So keep that in mind, folks. Now, what was I going to say? There was something I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's set in stone with Joaquin not wanting to do. I know he doesn't do sequels, and I admire that. At this point, my conversation with him, if I was actually friends with him, would be like, "Look, bro, your body of work, you don't need to prove yourself. You've already proven yourself."
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Absolutely. And here's the thing: Marvel, with Avengers Endgame, has been leading to this point, right? This is sort of the epic conclusion. That doesn't mean there's not going to be more Marvel films afterwards. I just mean that this is really where all the 21 films or 22 films or however many there are had been leading to, right? This is it. This is the Super Bowl. Yeah. This is the Super Bowl now. Avengers Endgame. I'm not a comic book guy, but I know that. I know that because I know movies. So I know.
Is that out now or?
Avengers?
Is it about to be out?
It comes out at the end of this month, I think.
Okay.
So you have this epic thing. This is almost the perfect time for the DCEU to be starting up.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean?
No,
because well, not that there's no competition, but as this is coming down, this is going up. So
although,
it's almost.
Let me ask you a question before you finish that sentence now. Do you not think, like in everything, okay? I mean, movies, it's all cycle, meaning that there is an end game for comic book movies, whether comic book fans want to admit that or not. There is. Eventually, there is going to be a fatigue. Eventually, it will be affected at the box office. It's just the way. I mean, when you look at it, we're not making westerns anymore like they were making westerns back in the 40s and 50s. I mean, they still make them, but not as like predominant. And you could even argue and say like the height of slasher genre was in the 70s and 80s. While yes, we still get some slasher films every now and then, or we get like a Halloween 2018. But it's not in the, it's not every year, every month we're getting a, Freddy Jason movie or a Michael movie. And we're just, so at some point here, it's going to phase out, and we're going to, I mean, we don't even do like the 90s, man. The 90s was all about the blockbuster films, from Con Air to Armageddon to, you know, Face Off and Broken Arrow. I mean, my God, you know, it just seemed like every summer you had like those type of, you know, action-y type movies that we don't even do anymore. Barely. You barely see those types of movies. So at some point here, what you were starting to say with regards to now would be the starting point for the DCEU, is that also a problem? Because, you know, 10 years from now, I don't know if comic book movies are still going to be the dominant at the box office, or will it kind of fizzle itself out?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I do. I think it's look, everything is cyclical. The superhero genre, which it's a genre for sure, will not be the creme de la creme at the box office forever. It is now, because we have the technology to produce these amazing stories that we otherwise did not have the technology to produce. Certainly not in any sense of realism. But eventually we will have done all of them, for the most part, at least all the ones that really matter to a lot of people. You know, yeah, it will. I mean, it not necessarily anytime soon, but it will eventually. And I think that I just look at where Marvel is now, and I think, wow, you know, what a shame that DC wasn't just starting up now. You know, and really sort of taken that those years to learn from Marvel and learn the formula and make it your own, though. And now it's because I think for the most part the DCEU is fucking garbage, and I think everybody here thinks for the most part it's fucking garbage, because they tried to copy and keep up and they failed miserably. And without they should have done this. And like I said, Nolan's Batman trilogy really should have been the beginning of the DCEU, and then you take it from there. But with this Joker film, I think it's I'm loving the look. I'm loving the look. I rarely watch trailers. I watched the Joker trailer. This is true. I watched the Joker trailer, or have watched the Joker trailer, more times than I watched Halloween 2018 trailer.
Dude, same thing. I think the most trailer that I've watched this year, not to cut you off and not to go all like Bill and Ted Dude on you.
Wow, fuck yeah.
But no, for real, the two most trailers I watched this year are Lion King. That still got me freaking amped up. I can't wait to see that. And this new Joker movie. Like, totally. In fact, I mentioned it on Film Addict, who's in the chat room right now. I mentioned it on his Instagram account. So this is probably now my second most anticipated film this year that I want to see. I still haven't quite given the mantle to The Lion King as the most, but it's definitely close to it. But Joker for sure now. I'm like, yeah, dude, this movie's got me freaking pumped.
I just want to quickly say, BMT115, I did see your super chat, but like I say to everybody, wait till we get to the Q&A part. That way I won't miss your super chat, because I need to be able to concentrate on, you know, what I'm talking about. And if it's there, I have to talk what I'm talking about and all that kind of shit. So I do see it here. It says, what if new Joker kidnaps one of the Robins like Jason Todd and turns him into the Leto Joker to replace him like in the comics? I can't answer that.
I don't even know, bro.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Sorry.
Like,
it's only because I don't know the comics. Brandon Gregory said here that there's still Wonder Woman 2, Aquaman 2, The Batman, The Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, and Gotham City Sirens, which are still in the DCEU. That is correct, except for the Batman. I don't believe Matt Reeves' Batman is part of the current DCEU.
Great.
That's what I'm hearing. It's not. It's a standalone on its own, completely not connected.
Listed off. What are they going to do? I mean, Affleck's not Batman anymore, from my understanding. Henry Cavill's not Superman anymore, right? Is that confirmed, or is that just rumored?
Well, it's been all but confirmed. It's been all but confirmed. But there's a real big. See, that's why I said at the beginning, I said that this Batman thing, which is acting as sort of a thing off to the side, and the Joker that sort of act. Is it possible that I have a feeling that they might be working towards something there, but then it leaves this conundrum with this. It's like you have half a house built, you know, with this current DCEU. You got all these things that are, I just don't care about the DCEU. And I want to, because I like their characters better than the Marvel
You can
characters.
have alternate universes. From my understanding, the way my brother explained it to me, there's so many, like, okay, here's an example. Okay. Like, again, I don't get latched onto too many like comic book stuff, but man, from day one to the last episode, I was hooked on Smallville. And my brother had to really break it down to me, like, well, let me explain, because like I kept asking him questions each week. Like, I love the show. I'm like, well, why is Clark and Lex meeting each other now while Clark is in high school? Like, and I love the concept that they were doing that type of an origin story of Clark Kent becoming the Superman that we all knew in Smallville, and I loved it. And it helped to have someone with that knowledge there to really explain to me, like, okay, this is an alternate universe. There's different Flash universes as well, too, and things like that. So it does make it easier for like guys like me and you who are not well versed in the comic book world, but like, for example, with Superman 77, 78 with Donner's and Burton's Batman, they're not connected. So you can have alternate universes from my understanding, and that's the norm with the DC stuff. Someone correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room. But that is,
I guess so. I just I'm old school in the sense that I don't like too many things going on at once, and I want to be able to become emotionally attached to the characters that I fall in love with. I mean, imagine if there was a Star Wars universe, but then there was an alternate universe where you had somebody else playing Luke and somebody else playing Han. And it's just it just.
What about the rumors that the whole retconning of Episode 8 and that Luke may be alive?
No, I don't buy it. Don't buy it.
They interviewed Rian Johnson this week, and they asked him about how he feels about his movie being retconned. And
well, no. What they asked him, how do you feel if JJ were to retcon some of the things that you had?
What if he did? What if he does that?
Well, if he,
that's another discussion. We'll get back onto it.
Well,
you just had part of Star Wars. I was like, oh yeah, wait a second.
It's hard for me to say because I don't think there's any credibility to it at all. I think there are certain things, lighter things, that will be retconned, and I think the most significant thing in The Last Jedi that might be retconned, the most significant thing, would be that Rey's parents were nothing but junk dealers. I think that is the easiest thing to retcon, because you can just justify that Kylo was lying to cohorts her over to his side. But in terms of Luke being alive and Snoke actually coming back and all that no, I don't think so. I think Luke, well, we know he's going to be in it, but I don't think he's going to be alive. I think that's something that just, unfortunately, as much as I think it's a garbage fucking movie, that whole Luke's death, it's too integral to the point of that movie that to retcon it would be almost too much. And of course, a lot of people wouldn't care. But I think JJ would love to do it. And I think he wishes he would have stayed on for Episode 8. That's what I think. But he's a professional, and he knows that, well, unfortunately, it's happened. I can't go back now, so I got to work with what I've got. And I think that's what's going to happen there. But so yeah, I don't know. I just think that when I think of the DCEU right now, I'm just kind of like, I just don't feel good about it. Like, I went to the theater to see Man of Steel because I like Superman. I watched you see, here's the funny thing. I watched Batman v Superman on Netflix. That's where I finally saw it, about a year or so ago. I actually didn't mind it. I didn't think it was a great movie, but because I'm not emotionally attached, right? It's like those people that went and saw The Last Jedi and were like, I thought it was okay. Are you a Star Wars fan? And do you not see the whole? And they're like, well, no, I
about BVS is, one, the Doomsday. We didn't need to get to Doomsday right away.
Yeah, all that shit. Yeah. I agree.
Like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I just mentioned Smallville here a moment ago. Honestly, I thought if they had casted Michael Rosenbaum to play Lex Luthor, that would have been an equally match, because of all the Lex Luthors next to Gene Hackman is just on a shelf of his own. Michael Rosenbaum, to me, is by far the best Lex Luthor, not counting animated stuff, because I've never watched any of that. So for those who are about to jump at me and go, whoa, what about this animated version? I've never seen it. But from what I have watched and seen, Michael Rosenbaum by far is the best Lex Luthor. And I don't care what they say that, you know, just because he was on Smallville, and you could totally put him into that role and bring him in. And I think he would have been the better fit to go toe to toe against someone like Henry Cavill in Superman.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just want to clarify that when I say I enjoyed BVS, I'm not saying I thought it was great. I'm just saying that when I went to watch it on Netflix, I had very low expectations because of what everybody said about it. And I found myself enjoying it, not because I think it's a great movie, but I found myself enjoying it because I have no emotional attachment to it. And I think that those people that like, there are a lot of people that have no emotional attachment to Star Wars, don't know all the characters, don't know all the backstories, don't know all, you know, what's at stake, or whatever the case is. They know basic stuff. So when they went and saw TLJ, they walked away going, well, yeah, that was kind of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And then, of course, hardcore nerds are like, what do you mean it was fun? You didn't understand. And that's kind of how BVS, you know, superhero fans would be. Well, no, but Dave, did you not understand that? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that.
I did a video on what was it? Justice League. Yeah, this is when I was making videos, and this is why I don't make videos anymore. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had fun. But again, I came at it as just a moviegoer going to watch a movie. And I was like, okay, this was fun. Holy shitstorm from the freaking comic book fanboys who attacked me and ripped my head off. But I'm like, guys, I'm not like, maybe like, I shouldn't have to have a disclaimer in front of my videos and have to repeat myself 100 times to people. Like, I don't read comic books. I'm not well-versed. I'm just a guy who enjoys movie. And if I happen to enjoy a movie, I shouldn't have my head ripped off because it's not sticking to the content that comic book fans know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I get why you're passionate, and I understand it. You know, like I said, my brother is very passionate and very into this stuff, and I understand it. But just as an average moviegoer like myself who just enjoys a good flick, and I understand a little bit of these characters, when you say you like something, it should just be left at that. It shouldn't get into like, oh my God, how could you like this? Because they didn't do this, and they didn't, like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's because we live in this outrage culture, and it's a negative culture, and people think that they want to express their opinions. And if it's over something that, if somebody gets a sense that you are a casual fan over something, and you might not know a little bit of, but here's the thing, like but this is, it shows the maturity level, and dare I say, you know, the banjo level, you know.
That's funny you say that. I watched Deliverance last night.
Oh, that's funny. Ding, 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 ding. But it's like, if somebody, like, I mean, I know a lot about horror and Halloween, right? So, but if somebody was to say, oh, you know, I kind of really enjoyed Halloween 5, you know, and, oh, are you a Halloween fan? Well, no, not really, but I kind of thought it was cool. And I'd be like, oh, okay, that's great. You know, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I would never attack anybody for, well, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, you piece of shit. You son of a bitch.
Thank you. I mean, I had this conversation with so many people who loved the 2018 film. I've never once come out and said I hated the film. I have issues with the film. Like every film, you go into it and you walk out of it going, oh, like I said, I've always said I liked it for the fact that it was celebrating this franchise and 40 years of this franchise and what I interpreted the film as. But apparently that just wasn't good enough for people, and they thought I was slamming the film. I'm like, I've never once said anything. I've said James Jude Courtney is the second best Michael. You know,
I don't even. It's all noise to me now. It's just
I mean, exactly. I've had to like take it to that level, like just tune it out and
it just, I couldn't look. I mean, you can't. You can't get online and do shows like this or videos like this and care what people think of you. Can't do it. And because you won't be able to do your job, and you won't be able to be you and offer what it is, which is why when I first began putting my face out there, I made it very clear right up front. I'm going to tell you what I think. And if you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, I don't give a shit. I couldn't care less. And I said that because I don't want people wasting their time and energy. Now, they can do it if they want, but unless I'm factually wrong over something, right? Unless I've said something that's a factual
that's different. If we were trying to talk facts tonight about, like, you know, the Joker's
sure.
story, that's totally different. Because if we're not coming at it with some form of education, some form of knowledge, then we sound like two complete idiots talking about something that we really are talking about.
That's right. Facts are important in that way, and of course, it's also part of my shtick, right? It's part of my I'm that kind. It's part of my personality. I put on. I'm an actor. You know, people forget that I'm a voice actor, but it's acting. I'm a performer. I've done on camera acting. I've done stand up comedy. I'm a voice actor. I've done so. Getting online and being really eccentric and into it and going, this guy's it's part of the shtick. So it's not to offend anybody. It's just to prevent anybody from, if you disagree with me, that's great. You're more than entitled to do so. But I laugh and at the people that write these long diatribes of comments on YouTube. And I see this and I'm just like, I don't even know. I don't even know what this is. Like, you need to get out more. I mean, just like you can, but like it's an essay that just goes on and on. And I laugh.
I've never even read.
Oh my goodness. I don't even bother reading any. I can't even, and most of the time, on most of my videos, not all of them, it depends on what I'm talking about, but I average between 200 and 300 comments a video. I cannot possibly see or respond to everybody as much as I would love to. So you can't do these kinds of things and care about. And I've always had thick skin anyway, for the most part. I mean, unless somebody, was to be personal in terms of threatening my life or something to that degree, but in terms of calling me names or saying I'm a dick or whatever it is, okay, you're more than entitled to call me whatever you want.
Well, it depends also in 2019 now. In 2019, you can, really, if you attack someone's character, people are automatically assuming someone's guilty before doing any fact checking. That's why, like, if anything, if you're attacking, me or whatever, or Dave or something like that, and you're attacking us on our personalities, or you're claiming something about us that's not true, that's when I will speak up about it. Because like I said, in this day and age, it can literally ruin you in your career and everything. Like, I've spent literally, 20 years working very hard at my career, and what I do and whatnot. And I'm not going to have some Joe Blow idiot from Timbuktu, Kansas, sitting behind his computer in his mama's basement, type up, Tony's a racist. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I'm what? Like, how did we elevate to that? You know what I mean? And that's part of it, where it's like, in this day and age, those little stigmas can get attached to someone, and it can ruin you before they find out any truth to the story.
They can, but I'm not worried about anybody that watches me. I'm talking about me now. If that was to be said about me, I don't worry about that. If it was said by CNN, well, that's a different story. If it's said by some Joe Blow on a chat room that says I'm a racist, I'll say, well, I'm not, but thanks for your, concern or whatever. They don't have the care nor means. Trolls are lazy people, and by and large, and so I'm not really. The only time that I would be concerned is when 2 Instagram accounts popped up under my name, and sorry.
That was creepy. That was just weird.
Yeah, it was under my name and under the VoiceMann, and of course I informed Facebook. I don't have Instagram, and I didn't realize that Facebook owns Instagram, so I had to contact Facebook and prove who I was and say, this is not me. Can you take it? And it had like 500 followers or something like that. But that would be the only time that I would be concerned, is if somebody was impersonating me on a level that was sort of, that could be problematic. But at the same time, if that person was to say something, to say the N-word or, say whatever it is that certainly I wouldn't say, it would be very easy to prove that person's not me. So, but you don't want to go through it anyway. You don't want to go through the hassle, but trolls and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. It's,
it just sucks that we had to repeat ourselves like 10 times tonight about how we're not comic book guys, but I understand why we've done it, because we have no idea who's going to watch this video and when they're going to.
I don't mind doing that. Yeah.
Exactly. That, like, hey, we're not the comic book experts, because I already know. And well, I said this to you during the week, like, I was hesitant. I was like, man, we are not the guys to do this. But then at the same time, I was like, you know what? It's challenging. We're tackling a subject. We're talking about a subject when it comes to comic books and comic book characters that you and I are not well versed in. So fuck it. Let's give it a shot, Yeah,
well, and that's the perspective we came at it from, right? And I think the show was a lot of fun to talk about our ideas, what we think of the Joker trailer, where they might be going, what the DCEU did wrong, maybe what they should have done. And I think it was a lot of fun. And I think right now we should turn over to the chat room and get some Q&A in here, baby.
Yeah. Nocturnal Truth. Yes, this is my my new swag, my new Halloween 4 t-shirt. You got Jamie up there in the corner, Rachel down there, Loomis right there, and then what I liked about this is all the little stuff that you saw at the intro of Halloween 4, like the little, like, I don't know what the hell that is, but it's like a witch harvesty looking thing with hands, and then the pumpkin dude up here. There was a pumpkin guy sitting on the tractor in the beginning. So I like this. So when my buddy of mine who runs the novelty shop here at the Mall of Georgia, he knows me as the Halloween guy. It's like, bro, I got this, but I only got it in a small. And I'm like, I'll take it anyways. I don't care. Usually I buy. I don't know about you, Dave. I get my t-shirts usually in a medium because I'll wash them and I'll shrink them once, and then after that, when I wash any of these types of shirts, I always air dry them because I don't want the material to get ruined. But he only had this in a small, so I was like, I'll take it anyways.
Yeah, I usually buy t-shirts. Yeah, I'll use it depends on the cut. Like I'm never in a small, but depending on the t-shirt, it might be like, oh, that's more of a medium and it fits great. Sure. But then depending on the cut of the shirt or whatever, I might need a large. And sometimes I buy a large anyway because it shrinks in the dryer, right? So it's kind of like, oh, if I buy hoodies and things like that, usually I'll buy them large because I like hoodies to be kind of, comfy and not so tight and things like that. And hoodies as well can shrink too. So but usually a medium or large, depending on it. All right, let's go to the chat room. Let's get some questions in there. Let's go. Tony, you take I'll take the first question here. Okay, the first question comes from Zach Frederick, who says, I like Dave and Tony because they don't take little things so personally. They always they allow people to have their own opinions, taste, and preference, just like me. I allow people to think differently than me. And I feel like we need the more you know thing to pop up. The more you know.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a question. Let's see here. The Film Addict says, hey, Dave and Tony, what is your favorite shot in the trailer, the Joker trailer? Ooh. There's so many good ones.
Is he standing in an elevator at the end? It looks like he's standing in an elevator.
Yeah, he is.
He just got that look. I'm like,
he does.
He
does.
Like he's ready. Like he's about to fuck shit up.
Yes. Like he's finally become who he was.
It's kind of cool. I like the dancing on the stairs because it's a nice leading line shot of him on the staircase. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it from a photography, cinematographer point of view. So that was pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. No. I like when he's I don't know if he's looking at a cop or whatever it is, but the cop looks down at him and he looks up and he's just like, what? He says, what? I like that. I like the shot of the stairs when he's on the stairs and he does that little dance. And I also love when he's fucking leaning over, whatever the fuck he's leaning over, and he's skinny as a rake and you can see like his spine and he's like sitting there and he's like all fucking, he's borderline Machinist with Christian Bale. He's like fucking really slim and he's got like that arched back, right? Love that shot. That's a great shot. And there's a lot of great shots in that fucking film or in the trailer.
Oh, absolutely. This was a good question here from Goob. I like the name Goob. What are your guys' favorite suspense/tension filled movie? Like moment or like movie? And I'm gonna go with moment. Like, what's your favorite suspenseful moments? Or are you talking about one movie in general?
What are your guys?
I'll give you two. I'll go with The Exorcist and The Shining. Those two are, the suspense and the tension that's built up in both of those films are well done. The Kubrick storytelling and were absolutely, nailed it. Spot on. If that's what you are asking, I think that's what you're asking. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but.
Yeah, I think that's a suspense-filled movie. So he means a movie that's full of suspense.
Clockwork Orange, it's a suspense. There's the never seen but implied rape scene with the woman there when the goons go into the house. There's a lot of scenes actually in A Clockwork Orange that are still, even to this day, that are, one, I'm like, damn you, Kubrick, you went right to fucking balls to the walls with this movie. You didn't hold back. And it still to this day holds up. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I would say Jaws is great, The Shining, The Exorcist, Black Christmas, suspense filled. I mean,
And just so many great,
there are. I mean, the
Deliverance. I watched that last night. There's a lot of moments in Deliverance that are like
Session 9. Oh, there's some good stuff. I mean, there's biting your nail suspense, and then there's just an undertone of suspense through an entire film.
Yeah.
Right. Where it never really sort of like there's suspenseful scenes, like you said, where there's a moment that's building to the suspenseful moment. But then there's movies that just have this undertone of suspense all the way through. I watched the original Child's Play last night for a Saturday movie night for my patrons. And it's up on my channel right now. And I can tell you that having not seen that movie in a long time, that first Child's Play movie is great. It's got wonderful suspense, and we don't see Chucky, the Chucky we know, the come here, bitch, and his face is all going. We actually don't see that until 40, spitting like a mad dog again, about 45 minutes into the movie. Like that, like we seriously, it's all done with the power of suggestion and, running in the background, POV shots. You see a little arm come into frame, and then you just see that, good guy doll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was fantastic. I loved it. You guys want to check out my commentary on it? You can check it out. It's the video before this one. Super chat. Aaron Keller says it's Caesar.
Romero. I think I kept saying Ramon. Yeah, because I was thinking. Yeah,
I didn't even catch that. Yeah.
You know why? And I'll tell you why. This was my fault. When I went out here a little while ago, and I was just getting myself groceries for the week, and I was listening to the Ramones, the punk band, in my car, and I think that's what I kept thinking of. But yeah, it's Romero. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Yes. Let's see here. Let's see.
I love it. My personal favorite is when people can't let shit go and they bring up shit from like 3-4 weeks ago. So yeah, if you're still bringing up stuff that we talked about weeks ago, chances are we're probably not going to talk about that.
Tommy Ricknell, thank you for the Swedish currency, I believe. That's what it is. I think the 50 is it SEK or SEK? That works out to, I think, $5-10 Canadian. Something like that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Super chat says, I miss the depth and cinematic feel of modern movies. Movies of today just look way too clean and pristine. Even big blockbusters lack this. Yes, there is a certain shine and sheen, and a lot of that is done in post-production.
24 from that.
So, well, yes, there's a lot of the independent production companies that don't, but in terms of the big sort of mainstream Hollywood films, yes, and you can thank post-production for that. There's a lot of color correction and certain filters that will go on. Yeah, I agree, and I could get deep into this, but I don't want to take up too much. I agree with what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I've noticed it as well. And that's another reason why the DCEU had a wonderful opportunity to stick with something a little grittier. Who's to say a grittier Superman wouldn't work? I mean, Man of Steel already is a grittier-ish sort of Superman film. It is definitely really heavy in the special effects, but it definitely is a little grittier than we've ever seen Superman. Certainly much grittier and darker than Superman Returns from 2006, and certainly grittier and darker than the Christopher Reeves. So you take that one step further, put him in real world. That doesn't mean you can't have him, knocking shit up, flying around, being Superman, right? He's fucking Superman. You can still have him, but put him in a real. I'm telling you, man. I know it's risky, but I think the DCEU missed out, and maybe this is the beginning of it. I don't know.
I agree. Movie Juice asked us, "Hey guys, The Exorcist."
Movie Juice
asked us, "Hey guys, The Exorcist, attempt a remake or leave it alone? Leave it the fuck alone." It's funny because I actually watched the Scream 4 movies this week because I'm gonna be doing some original picture portrait concepts of the Ghostface killer from Scream. I managed to get myself from 1995 a Fun World Father of Death costume. I spent some major bucks on it, but it's from that period right before the movie came out. So it's literally the exact same costume that Wes Craven used in the original Scream movie. So I went back and I rewatched him this week. And what I liked about Scream 4 and what Wes Craven did, I didn't catch this the first time until I rewatched it again this week. There's a moment when Hayden Panettiere, I think is her name, she's the blonde short girl actress in the movie, and she starts rambling off movies because the guy's asking her a question. I'm like, wait, those are all movies that have been fucking remade. And I get what Wes Craven was doing now. And then, of course, the line Neve Campbell gives at the end of the film, you know, don't fuck with the original, leave it alone. And
Right.
I'm a firm believer that remakes should, and I get why they do it, but I'm a firm believer you leave shit alone. You know, there's a reason why that, you know, maybe me and Dave will talk about the Rob Zombie films one day on this. You know, I know it's been asked a lot. I mean, there's pros and cons about that, but there's just reason why you just don't go back and do something, especially like an iconic film like Halloween or Nightmare or Exorcist or Friday the 13th or Texas. Although the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is the one exception because the Jessica Biel one was pretty solid and decent. But that's like so rare. It's like saying like, let's go remake The Godfather or let's go remake Jaws. Like you just don't do it. Leave it alone. I think that's why Wes Craven did Scream 4 the way he did was like, yeah, I think he had enough of these remakes being done.
Yeah, and Scream 4 was completely unnecessary.
It was. I think I understand why he did it now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Scream was great, but Scream 2, 3, and 4 were completely unnecessary because the shtick was over. The gimmick was up. There's a very specific type of shtick and magic trick to make Scream work. And once you know the trick, oh, okay, it's the voice box, it's the voice changer. It's not actually, hello, Sydney. That's not actually a real guy. That's not his real voice. I mean, it is a real guy. I know who he is, but I mean, it's not, it's the voice changer box. It's somebody in a costume. So, well, once that's been revealed, we're going to do a sequel where we do the same thing. Oh, but it's different people now and it's connected to the different. I just think it ran its course even after the first movie. But that being said, yeah, The Exorcist is one of those movies that the great thing about The Exorcist, yes, the transformation of Reagan is cool and the effects are cool. And sorry?
It still hold up to this day.
Absolutely. And
on that film, they're freaked out.
Oh, of course. And the levitation is cool. And if you watch the extended cut or the director's cut where it has the spider walk, that's really cool. Like, absolutely. But the best thing for me about The Exorcist, and Tony and I have talked about this off camera too, is the overall power of suggestion of impending doom that is coming in the movie. That is its biggest strength. We've seen today, not in 1973 or 74, I think it's 3, right?
Yes.
Obviously it was new then, but the whole, makeup and head turning around and all we've seen all that today. So to remake that's not special. What's really special about The Exorcist that stood the test of time is really, even though all the effects hold up, it's not really that stuff. It's that overall creepy vibe the movie has, that impending doom that is just coming. Like there's a great shot. I always say this when, there's a couple of them, I guess, when Reagan is in the bedroom and the door is shut. There's a couple of shots where the camera is just moving up on. It's very Shining-esque, where the camera is just moving up on the door, and then it gets colder and colder in the room, and Reagan is, slowly. We're watching
cold in the room. From my understanding, they actually brought temperatures down below like 20 degrees.
They did.
So when you're seeing her breath and his breath. That's legitimately their breath.
Yeah.
That's like post shit.
Yeah. It's just an overall thing. And so I don't unless my rule is this, if you're going to remake a movie, you ask yourself, are we remaking it because I'm okay with remakes if it's like, okay, we're going to remake it because the story that was told 30 years ago is actually more relevant today.
Yeah.
Therefore, it was a little ahead of its time. So we want to update it and we think we can do a pretty good job. Okay, that makes sense. We now have the technology and capability to actually do something like this even better, keeping the same story and really, okay. But to just remake The Exorcist, could you really do The Exorcist better? Or would The Exorcist be remade and it would be more sensational? It doesn't necessarily. Exactly. It doesn't mean that it would be better.
Right, the scene there in the room, the breath and all that stuff, it wouldn't be cold today. They would.
Well, yes, exactly. And the thing is that that's what I'm getting at. The crux of the Exorcist story is all that shit at the end of the movie is great. It's all great. That's all we love watching. That fuck me, and the head turning and the blah. Okay, it's great. It's awesome. But the heart of that movie is this creepy sense of the entire narrative and this downfall of this little girl. You can't do that any better. I mean, it's just so why remake it? Because basically what you're saying is, well, we could do the effects better. Well, yep. Okay, but that's not who cares, right? Anyway, there's a couple of super chats here I want to get to because I don't want to miss them. Rick Michael says, thank you for the super chat, Rick. Dave, I wish Kylo Ren would keep his mask on. Would have kept his mask on a little longer. What do you think? His mask was really cool. Yes, I agree with that. Although I do understand why his mask also came off and he smashed it, because it's the struggle. The mask is a representation of the dark side, and it's a representation of a spot internally that he's not fully there yet. Okay. So he struggles, as we know, with wanting to be taken seriously, which is why he murdered his father, right? He murdered his father because he wanted to prove to Snoke and to everybody else that he is actually somebody to be taken seriously. And like I said, I don't know if it was last week or maybe it was on a live stream a couple days ago. I said, people think that was meaningless, but there was a huge amount of symbolism there. Is that Kylo Ren is people fear him not because of his wisdom and what he stands for. They fear him because he's powerful, and he knows that, but he doesn't just want that. He wants to be respected, and he's not respected. You know, people laugh at him. They're scared of him, but they laugh at him, and he wants to be respected. And when he took off the mask and smashed it, it was almost that symbolic sort of thing where it's like, he's not saying it, but it's that he's not ready. He's not there yet. And he still has some growing to do. And of course he kills Snoke and all this kind of jazz. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him with his mask on fully in the next film, which I think we probably will, because he's probably a lot further along. So I agree with what you're saying, but I do kind of understand the choice.
And another super chat too.
Yes, I was getting that. Brandon Gregory. Thank you, Brandon. Do you think they will abandon the DCEU after the next 9 confirmed movies? In your opinion, why would they even waste the money on producing them? Well, to be fair, just because a movie has been greenlit to happen doesn't mean that it's going to happen. There have been many, 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 many movies over the years that have been confirmed or have moved into phases of development that never see the light of day. So just because they're talking about doing a bunch of movies doesn't necessarily mean they're going to happen. There's a plethora of reasons why they can pull out and change their minds. So do I think they will abandon? I think it's a tricky thing, man. I think they are really waiting to see what happens with this Joker movie. I really believe that. I believe that it was created, shot, edited, and mixed and put together as a standalone movie. That I believe. But I believe there are caveats and little things left loose. I don't mean a cliffhanger ending, but things that were left loose deliberately that we may not even pick up on, that they could come back to. Totally believe that. Because if it's hugely successful and they go, oh my God, we could totally tie this into that Batman film, they're going to take it. And you're going to have this, they'd be stupid not to. Yep. So anyway, Tony, you pick one.
Michelle Lark. I think I said that name right. Question for Tony. What is your favorite Friday the 13th movie and your thoughts on it? This is a hard one to answer because I have 3 that are in there. Friday 6 is definitely one of mine. I also live very close to the filming location to Friday 6, the actual campground. And I go up there a lot and do a lot of photography up there. Friday 2 and Friday, the original with Mrs. Voorhees, and Friday 2. Actually, Friday 2, that's another original portraits that I'm going to be doing coming up very soon on Instagram. I got someone to design me a really cool burlap sack Jason mask. So be on
Love it.
those
Love
pictures coming down the pipe very soon, because I'm getting a lot of great feedback on the horror shit that I'm doing on Instagram now. And thanks, guys. But it's very weird. My grandfather was a very big Friday the 13th fan. I've shared that story several times. So anytime going to his house, you know, I always knew we weren't going to watch Halloween or Nightmare. It was going to be pretty much Friday. And we'd always do the marathon. We do 1 through whatever number we were up to at that point in the 80s, whether it was 6, 7, or 8, you know, whatnot. But of the entire franchise, 6 is probably... it edges out a little bit. I just think because I really loved how Jason was portrayed in 6. He was just this badass huntsman out in the woods and just killing people left and right. But you can't not. The original is just so great, and Sean Cunningham did a phenomenal job. And the shocking reveal that it's Mrs. Voorhees is the killer. Is absolutely great. And I did like the follow-up. I loved Friday 2. I thought it was a great sequel to the original film. So hopefully that answers your question, Dave. What about you? Do you have a specific favorite Friday film?
Yes, the very first film is my favorite Friday the 13th, and because I just think it's the creepiest. I like the first 4 Friday the 13th films.
Right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, 1 is my favorite, and they're probably pretty much in order, I would say, for the most part. And then I don't mind 6. I mean, that seems to be a fan favorite. That seems to be the equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fan favorite. It seems to be the equivalent of
Halloween 4. Almost like Halloween 4, a fan favorite in the series that might not be people's favorite, but they liked what the attempt that the screenwriters were doing and the storytelling that was being given.
Yeah, I would equate it more to Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors.
That's a great.
That seems to be the equivalent of Jason Lives, and I liked it. I did. It's a very 80s movie. But my favorite Friday the 13th are the first 4, specifically the first one, because I just think it's eerie. You don't know who the killer is until the very end of the movie. There's a strong psychological component to the film. And then when you watch it again and you know who the killer is, I mean, just that concept of a woman in her 50s out in pitch blackness in the middle of fucking nowhere in the rain going, "Killer, mommy, killer, help me. Help me." I mean, just that scene with the counselors there in bed, and none of the kids are there, right? Because they're getting the camp ready for the kids to arrive. So you're in the middle of fucking nowhere. There's only 4 of you there. It's pouring rain, thunderstorm outside, pitch black. You're in bed and you hear outside, "Help me, help me," as if it's a little boy. Oh my God. Like, just that alone is fucking.
I think 6 is the only one with actual kids on the camp.
Yes, I believe so. I believe so.
I could be wrong, but I don't think there is in 5. There's no kids on a campground. I know okay, it depends. Are we counting Corey Feldman because he is a kid?
Well, no. I mean kids going to the camp. Yeah. So I pretty much like them in order, I guess. So that would be that. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Let's. Do
you still have beef with Tony Moran? Do you got beef with Tony Moran?
Oh yeah, a super chat. There's another one above that, which I'll get to as well. Do I have beef with Tony Moran? Oh no. David Lee Barron is referring to a video that I did a couple of years ago where I talked about how Tony Moran, and he does do this. He goes around to conventions and things like that, and he doesn't make the distinction that he was the unmasked Michael Myers, and he does this in interviews. I've seen him do interviews. I mean, interviews with the media where they're
the dude who gets unmasked at the end. He's taking credit as Michael in the original.
Yes, he is the unmasked Michael Myers. And sorry,
I don't know why I just went up an octave there, but dude, this is all news to me. I never even knew this.
No. Tony Moran is Michael Myers at the end of Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. It's the same footage, but he is the unmasked Michael Myers. He was Michael for all of maybe 3.5 seconds. But that in and of itself is really iconic. I mean, if you think about it, but he goes to conventions now. His acting career didn't amount much to life. He's struggled with drugs and alcohol. And I spoke to oh God. Why am I having a brain fart here? Anyways, it'll come back to me. He goes to conventions and stuff, and he does interviews with people who will ask him, so what was it like to be Michael Myers? And he talks about the audition process, and he talks about working with Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance and what it was like, and this, that, and the other. You would never guess in a million years, if you did not know, that he was only Michael Myers for 3.5 seconds. Now, why is this a big deal? It's the principle of it. And I did a video talking about that. It would be like Sebastian Shaw, who was the unmasked Darth Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi. Okay. The one where he's unmasked, the old guy, he's unmasked. It would be the equivalent of him going to conventions. If he were alive today, he's long gone, or doing interviews where people say, so what was it like to be Darth Vader? And he goes off on this wonderful story about auditioning and working with Mark Hamill and George Lucas. And, I was this, that, and and it's like, dude, you were Darth Vader for like 38 seconds. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. But that in and of itself is one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history. Sure. Own that. Own it. So my whole video was about, Tony, you're unmasked Michael Myers. You're the only time anybody has ever seen his face. Now, you could say, well, what about Don Shanks at the end of Halloween? No, but you never saw his face. You just saw his eye and a tear, whatever the case is. Right. He's the only one. The only one. Okay? Apart from Rob Zombie fucking shit. I'm just, you know what I'm talking about. Yep. So own that. Own it. I mean, that's iconic. Be proud of it. Own it. People are going to want to speak to you. People are going to want your autograph. But he has a big inferiority complex because his career never mounted to anything, and nobody's calling him out on it, and nobody's saying anything. So he just continues to do it. So I called him out on it. And I made a video about
what in the entire film. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was Nick Castle. Primarily, he was for majority of the hero shots of the film, the key iconic shots. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tommy Lee Wallace played Michael in the reveal where Jamie Lee Curtis is leaning up at the iconic shot there, where the face lights up the room. And you see Michael behind her. That's Tommy Lee Wallace. Deborah Hill plays Michael at the beginning. Little Michael, those are her hands. And she's also a silhouette of Michael at one point as well, too.
Across the street, yep.
Street. Am I missing anybody besides Tony now at the end? So there's literally like 5 different Michaels.
Well, there's
Castle is the hero of all of the majority.
Yes. There's the stunt performer as well that falls off the balcony. But the point is that it was in principle. Now, having done that video a couple years ago, a gentleman by the name of Sean Clark got in touch with me. Some people in the chat room might know who he is. He runs up, he's big on the convention circuit. He owns a agency called Convention All Stars. And he represents Nick Castle and James Jude Courtney and people from The Walking Dead. He runs an agency, an appearance agency, essentially. And he represents a lot of these actors that will go to a lot of these conventions. And he got in touch with me about a year or so ago. And he said, dude, he's like, I just watched your Tony Moran video. And I got to say that I loved it. He said, everything you said is right about it. And I just want to let you know that Tony Moran's a fucking idiot.
Wait, someone corrected me here in the chat room. That's right. The dog trainer who's holding up the dog. I forgot about that. That's another Michael.
Oh yeah. There's so many. There's a dog trainer too. So he said to me, he said, Tony Moran is a fucking idiot and he's a drunk. And there were times that he said, I will never
$25. That's all he literally made, like $25 for his 3 seconds.
Yeah. But it was so
just like throwing that out there. I don't know how much he made.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. But Sean said to me, he said, look, he's a drunk. I will never invite him to a convention ever again. He's a fucking dick. And he would show up to conventions drunk. Now that's coming from Sean Clark. Okay. And Sean Clark we had a conversation about it. And so, I mean, I don't know Tony personally. Those are Sean Clark's words. I have no reason to think of why Sean would lie, because he has had direct contact and has worked with Tony Moran. But Tony Moran strikes me as the kind of individual that, yeah, he's just he's a dick, and he goes around, and if nobody's going to say anything, then I'm just going to, he's not lying, but he's not saying anything. He's not correcting anybody.
Extending his 15 minutes.
Yes, he's not correcting anybody. But if nobody asks, he doesn't correct anybody. And in principle, I think that's wrong. I think you should own it. You are unmasked, Michael. Own it. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
And it pisses me off that he doesn't. Okay. Ian Allen James, super chat. Thank you, Ian. Sorry, it took a bit to get to it. If you had to remake a good concept, bad execution horror movie, which one would you do? Which one do you think, would have the most promise? Oh, that's a loaded question. Off the top of my head, I think Black Christmas, excluding the remake from 2006 with Carrie Fisher. I think that would be, I don't think it needs to be remade. I really don't. But I think that would be a fun one to do. Tony?
A bad one that I would remake?
Of course. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. He said bad. He said bad. And Black Christmas is not bad. My apologies. Let me... Terror Train. I think Terror Train is fucking bad. That's with Jamie Lee Curtis. I think that's bad. Terror Train, I think, would be cool because it takes place on a train. And I think the suspense and the claustrophobia and the shit you could do would be really cool.
I don't know. Like I said, I am not someone who's going to trash on someone's project. I know what it's like to work in this business, and, as a content creator on Instagram, you put your heart and soul into a project, whether it's, doing the Michael Myers photos or whatever photos that I'm trying to create for you guys to share. So I never really like to say bad film, because I know when people go into a project, they're doing their best to create something. That's why I don't really rag on, and it's even becoming harder now to say anything negative about Rob Zombie's Halloween, because Scout Compton has been so supportive on my Michael Myers pictures. She's been commenting on them on my Instagram and liking them. And that, to me, as someone who's like a small time little photographer, that's like, I'll never see that from Jamie Lee Curtis, but the fact that she's taken a moment out of her day, to like a photo that I've created and to even comment on it, that says a lot. Of course, it'd be a dream if Danielle Harris did, but even if she doesn't, the point is that I don't like to say anything negative about anything that someone's ever done. It's just never been my thing. But as far as like, what would I like to remake? Wouldn't necessarily say remake, but I would like to do a film inspired by Friday the 13th, like what Dave was just talking about here, the first one, because we haven't seen a good scary movie where you're seeing a lot from the POV, from the killer's perspective. It's been a minute. I was trying to think as you were talking there, maybe someone can help me out in the chat room. But I just can't remember the last horror film where we're seeing it from the POV throughout the whole film, up until the payoff at the end of recent years. Do you know of one? Because I can't think of any that I haven't seen. There may have been one, I just haven't seen it.
Well, there's been movies that have utilized the POV, but in terms of utilizing the POV to hide the identity of the main antagonist, it's been quite some time.
Yeah.
And that would be fun. That would be old school. And yeah. I would be up for that.
Cool. Next question. You had a couple other super chats. I'm assuming we're gonna go a little later since we had a bit of about a 15-minute late start.
Yeah, not quite that late. I think it was 10 minutes, but yeah, we'll go a bit longer here. Grave Warmer, thank you. Grave Warmer says, would you be okay with Hollywood retconning entire movies for the sake of saving the integrity of a story? For example, Episode 8. No. Because I think if that becomes a practice, then that just lowers the bar in terms of standards, because then you should have to own what you put out there.
Yep.
I hate The Last Jedi. I don't like it, but it's there, and it's there, and you made it. You own it. And I think if you can just erase it, pretending it didn't happen, I think that's a very tricky thing to apply, because that means that you don't have to, well, who cares? No, do it. Are you sure you want to do it? Whatever. If it doesn't work, we'll just pretend it didn't happen. Nah, Can't do that, man. Can't do that. So no, I don't think so. Tony?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. BMT, bacon, mayonnaise, and tomato. No, I don't know. 115, thank you, says thoughts on creep show in the horror industry.
I just got that.
What's that?
I just got that. I was like, wait, what?
Thoughts on creep show in the horror industry. Like the two movies back in the day. I haven't seen them in years, but I like them.
I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first creep show. I watched that this past October because I was going through old horror movies that I haven't watched in such a long time. And that was one of them. I haven't seen 2, and so I couldn't even tell you what 2 was about because it's been that long. It really
it's been that long for either. Like I haven't seen them in decades.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even tell you.
When I got up to the Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen part, I was like, holy shit, I forgot that Ted Danson was in the first creep show. And then of course Stephen King there. I did, it was a treat to go back to watch it. From what I remember of 2, I don't think that's Romero, right? Yeah. Yeah, he did creep show. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, was he? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Romero. I'm almost positive. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But the second one, I just remember it wasn't as much of a fan of that one like I was the first one.
Okay, cool. Okay, here. Let's see. We can get somebody that we haven't got yet. A
lot of great questions tonight.
A lot of great questions tonight. Yeah. You guys are awesome. Let's see here. Patrick Hartnett says they never needed to end Myers. He's the boogeyman. Laurie should have died in any sequel. Shouldn't have died in any sequel. I don't know. Oh, those are fighting words for the chat room. Everybody's going to get on Patrick now.
Oh, boy.
Backdraft 1331 says Castle, Wallace, Deborah, Hill, Morin, dog train. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got that. We're reminded about the dog trainer.
Right. Let's see here.
Next trend in horror. I think we're in it right now with the psychological thrillers. Everything that Jordan Peele is doing with like Us and Get Out. It Follows. I think we're in that that genre right now. And then you got the supernatural elements with the Conjuring universe and bringing it back with Annabelle. That Annabelle is probably my third. And I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I mean it's true. It's probably my third most anticipated film now, simply for the fact that they're doing the Annabelle film that I've been wanting them to do, which is with Vera and Patrick. The Ed and Lorraine Warren story, which is where this story should have been all along. And I've said that already. I think we're in it right now, and I love it. It's not like this is the first time we're seeing it. We saw this with obviously The Shining and other films from back in the day, but it was so like, I think Dave, you brought this up. It was so like, it was sporadic. It wasn't like they were doing it like we're seeing it now. That's becoming more and more common. So I think this is the trend we're going to be in probably for at least a couple more years. Do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And, the slasher genre has taken its rightful place back into the B movie sort of area. Halloween was not a B movie. I understand that. But, the original Halloween was definitely a B film. But in terms of Halloween 2018, that definitely was more of a modern mainstream film. But the slasher genre by its creation has always been, when it sort of started to birth in the 70s and then really took off in the 80s, it's always been best as a B movie. So you'll never really get a mainstream string of slasher genres impacting the pop culture consciousness, making boatloads of money at the box office like you will with psychological films. And there's lots of reasons to that, which would take me too long to go into, but definitely in terms of horror where we are right now, yeah, it's more of the psychological, which is great because that is what truly is frightening, tapping into the deepest psychological fears of everybody. And I think that's great. I think it's great. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
I can answer this question quickly. Hey, Tony, what are your three favorite pieces of vinyl? Probably be the 3 very first ones that I ever purchased, which was Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood, and followed by, it was NWA Straight Outta Compton. That's right. I love my boys out there. And I almost said the name. Like, I was like, wait, catch it, hold on, catch it. I was like, said the full NWA part. And I was like, oh boy, that would have been really, really bad for me. And then the third vinyl, believe it or not, that I purchased was the Superman soundtrack. almost said James Horner. Jesus, I'm out there. John Williams.
John Williams, yeah.
Those were the very first three. And then after that was Halloween, 78. So like that's kind of like in my top 4. And then the Godfather soundtrack. So those are the first 5 records that I purchased on my own.
Very cool.
I started to collect back in 89.
The Superman theme.
I'm sorry, 88.
The Superman theme is arguably one of the greatest motion picture themes of all time. I mean, I think I like the Superman theme better than the main theme for Star Wars. And now when we start talking about the Imperial March, then things get a little tricky. But I got to say, I think I like the Superman theme over the main theme to Star Wars. And not that I don't like the Star Wars theme, I do, but I'm just, it's so iconic. And I used to, when I go jogging, I would have the fucking Superman theme, and it's like a
Rocky theme.
It's great. It's fucking amazing. Yeah, Rocky's great too. Yep. Rocky's great too. Let me see here. Scrolling. Keep that finger scrolling. People are probably wondering, what do I have in my hand here? Oh, I have just it's a measuring thing that was in my studio for some reason. I don't know why it's in here. Let me see here. Movie Juice. Love it. I love that his little avatar is a juice. What should be the next Stephen King adaptation? I would like to revisit Cujo. Yeah, Cujo wouldn't be too bad. Cody Leach was talking the other day about Christine, and coincidentally enough, Christine was on AMC the other day.
That's one of my favorite King movies and book to movie adaptation. I don't know if I'd want to see. I mean, I like Cody, and I saw that video too, and I was going to say something, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
I would be open. I think the probability of a Christine doing well is quite high, because we're in an era right now where people are sort of attracted to cars again. Whether you're dealing with Transformers turning into cars, whether you're dealing with Fast and Furious. I understand those are sensational films.
Do you do the same 56, 57 Bel Air that they use?
Yeah. Yeah, because now it's even more of a novelty. I mean, when that movie came out in 82, 3, whatever it was, that car was only 20 years old. So I mean, now that car would be like 50, 60 years old, and I think you could really sort of play it, because now it becomes really special. It's a real novelty. Yeah. Some young kid who's an introvert sees this, and kids make fun of him because they're like, "What is that? That's a fucking boat, man. What's that?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Thank you. You're right. It was a Plymouth Fury, not a Bel Air. The two models are so similar in their look, but yeah, you're absolutely 100% right. It's not the Bel Air. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think because of that, you could really play into that. Now it really stands out in 2019, and kids today, teenagers some young, like I said, introverted kid falls in love with this really old looking car that seems like it's from another time years ago. And his friends make fun of him. He's picked on. Look at that fucking stupid car. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because
believe it or not, that's still very relevant. Bullying, kids being bullied in school. It's still very relevant.
Well, no, that part is. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the idea of this car. The idea of that car would be funnier today to kids today than it was necessarily 35 years ago, because that car in the original Christine movie was only like 20 years old, right? So what I'm saying is not the bullying part, but the actual car itself would be, I could see kids being bullied because a kid falling in love with a car would be like us being kids falling in love with a car from the 40s. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it looks funny to these kids. So I think it could work. I think it would be really interesting. And you keep it, you make it a bit different than obviously the original film, but I'm open to at least talking about it. So yeah. MRJ says, at Dave McRae, at Tony Michael, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, of course you can.
And Aaron Keller, we did acknowledge your super chat on the Cesar Romero So
yes, we did.
We did acknowledge that, and thank you for the super chat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. It was back a bit, but if
Yeah,
you go
see,
back,
like Dale says it here, the dog today could be like, if they did a Cujo remake, it could be very CGI, and that's the thing. I'm not sure if that's what I love about the original. You know what I mean? That's what I'm worried about, is that they're so into the CGI today that they might, well, unless you're like James Wan, you know, which James Wan tends to go with the practical. It was a year and a half before I realized that the dude who plays Crooked Man in Conjuring 2, that's actually a dude. Like, that's not CGI. They got the tall, lanky, skinny person. That is really a dude. I'm like, damn, the fact that James Wan took the time out to go find someone to fit the vision that he had in his mind to play, and that it wasn't an actual CGI character. I was like, mad props to you. So yeah, Dale, I agree with you. If they went the CGI route, which they typically do, that's where, like, that's why Jaws would not work today, because that's probably what they do. The thing that made Jaws so great, and Dave has said this so many times, and not to piggyback off of Dave, but I want to make sure I give the credit where credit is due.
He's on me.
Tony Moran, who doesn't want to do that. But Dave has said, you know, the charm of Jaws, I couldn't say that 5 times fast. The charm of Jaws is that you don't see the shark. And that's what made it work. The fact that Bruce was not working for Spielberg during this, you know, when they were filming that, ultimately made it work. I think today, if they were trying to do Jaws, you're just going to end up seeing the shark. And it ruins the charm and the psychological thriller and the scary part of not really seeing the shark until almost pretty much the ending of the film, right?
Right. Yeah.
And today, they didn't do that.
Well, the first time you really see the shark with any sort of clarity is when he attacks that guy in the pond area.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, Michael gets, but it looks, and I still think that shark today looks real. I don't think they've mastered the CGI shark. I think every time I see a CGI shark, looks like fucking dog shit.
Bruce is hands down the best looking shark I've ever seen in a movie. There's in the sequel that they did a good job. I will say that in the sequel.
Jaws 2 looks fine. Yeah.
But after that, even the new, I watched the Statham movie here, Meg, and I was like, oh my God, this is so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. What do we got?
Disturbed Child for Life. I think Pumpkinhead is an underrated movie. What do you think, Dave? I only reason why I'm laughing is one of my closest friends. Like, we've been friends for like 20 years. In fact, he's moving here to Georgia soon, which I can't wait. He told his girlfriend that he loved her for the very first time while watching Pumpkinhead. So I laugh at it. So every time, like, you know, we visit, and I go up to visit, you know, family and friends up north, or if he comes down to visit and sees her, I'm like, so how's Pumpkinhead? Because she gives him shit. That's the first time he said "I love you" to her, was watching that film. So
I thought that was a euphemism for a minute. Anyway, so what
do you think
here? Sorry?
Did you see Pumpkinhead? What did you think of it?
Oh, years ago. I couldn't tell you if I haven't seen it in so long. Let's see. Somebody I haven't mentioned yet. Let's see here. Dory Heather says, at Dave McRae, hey, you saw Don Shank's face at the start of Halloween 5. It was in the background behind the hermit and a little blurred, but if you zoom in, you can see it clear enough. Pay attention. Listen, if I cared more about Halloween 5, I'd care more about your observation. Sorry. Pay attention. You got to zoom in. If you zoom in at the right moment, you can actually see his face. It's a little blurred now. It's a little blurred, but if you zoom in, you can actually make out his face. I just don't give a shit about Halloween 5. But that's great that you noticed that. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Rolling on. Brendan Gregory, Dave, that guy's name is Mr. J, as in what Harley calls the Joker. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't seen Suicide Squad, so I don't know.
Hey, this super chat from Frank Riker. Hey,
Dave, yeah, good old Frank.
Hey, Dave and Tony, what fictional character from movies would you like to have a cup of Joe or coffee with? Yeah. That's a great fictional character.
Well, actually, I didn't. Somebody asked me this on a live stream, I think the other day. It might have been Frank, maybe.
We have to set ourselves into that time as well, too, like at the appropriate age. Because if I said I wanted to sit with Danielle Harris from Halloween 4, I'd have to go back and make sure that I'm the same age as her, because that would be fucking weird today.
And you probably wouldn't be having a cup of Joe either.
No, we'd be having soda pops and drinking Coca-Cola and Pepsi, because I think she's a year older than us, if I'm not mistaken. I think she was born in 78. Okay, all right. Okay, well, no, he asked his actor. I almost said
fictional character.
I almost said Kubrick, but he's not a fictional character. He's a director. Fictional character that I like to have a cup of coffee with. That's a good fucking question. Damn, man, that's hard. I can't think of one. I mean, I can think of a lot, but like to narrow it down just to one.
I'm gonna go with Tony Montana from Scarface.
Okay, that'd be an interesting.
I want to have coffee with him so he could sit there and go, "Fuck you, you piece of shit, fuck you, huh?" I just want Al Pacino to just do that to me. And I figured if I have a conversation with him as that character, I'm going to piss him off by just looking at him weird. And he's just going to go, "Fuck you." And he's going to get up and he's going to walk away. And I'll be like, I just got told fuck off. I just got told fuck off. That's amazing. Did you hear that? Fuck you. It was great. That's what I want.
I got mine. And the only reason why I got mine is because I could relate a lot to this guy in high school, which is probably why he's one of my favorite fictional characters in cinema history, would be John Bender. Like John Bender, I spent a lot of days in detention. I was very mouthy to my teachers. Not all of them, selective ones. I would not mouth off in disrespect, but I would challenge my teachers on topics a lot of times. But definitely, you know, for those who don't know, John Bender is the Judd Nelson character from Breakfast Club. So that probably, me and him, I could see us sitting there just shooting the shit, talking about metal bands of the 80s and, you know, and talking about, you know, which girl we want to, I don't know how to say it in 2019. Back in the day, we would say talking about which girls we want to bang or nail. Today, which girls we would like to properly get to know.
Oh, lordy. Okay, we'll go to 9:30. We'll go to 9:30.
Sounds good.
That'll be good. Okay. Let's see here. Davey Boy Music 402 says, Dave, what's your thoughts about the Hellraiser movies? Well, I saw the first one years ago. I remember I kind of liked the first one, actually. It was okay. But I don't think I've seen any of the others. I'm not a big Hellraiser fan. I don't particularly care about.
Yeah, same here. I only watched the first one, and I really, actually, to be honest with you, I don't think I even completed the first one. Hellraiser wasn't really one of my flicks.
Same here. Same with me. JDS 4696 says, do you think the Joker movie will be more successful than Venom?
I think, especially with Joaquin Phoenix at the title, I think that's got a lot going for it.
I think it will do well. Whether it has legs will determine, obviously, whether or not it's a.
Is it the first week of October or second week that it comes out? Do you know?
Let me see here. The Joker is being released on October 4th.
So it's first week. So do you know what's challenging it?
Not off the top of my head.
Most of the big scary movies will have already come out. Annabelle comes out in June. It too, I think, comes out in September, if I'm not mistaken. And those are really the two big ones that I can think of off the top of my head, unless you can think of another big horror movie that people are anticipating this year.
No,
Cemetery's out this weekend.
Yeah, I know that. I'm very interested to see the follow-up to Hereditary, directed by the same guy who directed Hereditary, but that movie comes out this summer. That's called Midsummer, and summer is SOMMAR, I believe.
Yeah.
And that trailer has me hooked. It looks like another sort of cult angle, psychological horror, but that's the summer though. So
right now, it doesn't sound like it's got any. It doesn't like where Venom had Halloween to compete with the following week. You know, it came out 1 week before Halloween. I don't think Joker's got much competition, so it might do well. It might. Yeah.
I'll have to. I don't have it immediately up in front of me what's coming out, but it might do well. Yeah, it might. Well, no, I mean it's going to do well. It's going to do very well opening weekend.
Yeah.
The question is, I could see the movie making. I don't know. It depends on what the marketing is going to be like from here on out. You know what I mean? But and whether or not it has any legs. So we'll see.
Tony, this one's for you. Next week is April 14th, the day the Titanic sank. That's right. Well, it actually sunk technically. It went underwater April 15th at 2:20 in the morning. But I know what you're saying. It hit the iceberg at 11:20 on the 14th. Are we going to do, I mean, I don't know if we would dedicate a whole show to Titanic in the movie. It just so happens that if we do the show next week and the anniversary is, I mean, maybe, a quick little mention or some sorts, but I don't know, Dave, I don't think we would do a whole show on Titanic, but
no,
maybe a quick mention,
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. Nick says August 9th, Midsummer. August 9th, Nick, Midsummer. You forgot it's AR, not ER. The title of the movie is MIDSOMMAR. Let's see here. Rich homie. He's rich and he's a fucking homie. He's a rich homie. He says, this is for Dave and Tony. What are your thoughts on The Lost Boys 1987 with the two Coreys? Not just one Corey, the two Coreys.
One of my favorite films from the 80s. Love it.
Yeah, I liked it too. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
that's one of my go-to. I watched it again this October. There are selective films that I will watch every October, and Lost Boys that's always in there for sure.
That's right. Oh, let's see here. Backdraft. Oh, that's a great movie. Great early 90s movie starring Robin Williams, Robert De Niro, Kurt Russell. Fuck, great.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at a comment. It's, Dory, Heather, Tony, your eyes are so damn blue. You know what's funny? And it's an inside family joke. We've said it for years that I was the milkman's baby because I can't be the mailman's baby because my father was a mailman. And so I couldn't be the mailman's baby, right? But my sister.
That's funny.
My sister, my brother, and my mom and dad, they all have dark eyes, and I'm the only one with blue, which is like, yeah. Weird, I know. But it's an inside family joke.
It's the Twilight Zone. Backdraft 1331 says, Dave and Tony, do you want another Friday the 13th movie? And if so, who would you want to see directed and who would you want to see play Jason? Too loaded of a question to get deep into detail here. Tony and I do have a show we did. I think it's our third episode where we talk about Friday the 13th. So go check that out. Good question. Just a little too loaded to get into detail here with the time remaining. But
you're killing me with these deep questions, man. No,
what historical figure would you guys like to meet?
That's easy. He's right up there blowing smoke out of his cigar. JFK. Probably that no doubt about it. I would love to have sat down with him and just shoot the shit with him.
I don't really know. I never really thought much about it.
Audrey wouldn't be a bad either, but JFK I think would be more considered a historical figure versus Hepburn is a great actress. Don't get me wrong.
Well, when somebody says historical figure, generally they're referring to on a geopolitical scale.
That's what I'm figuring, like someone like John F. Kennedy or whatever. Yeah. So. Tony, I remember you said you worked on cars. Well, my uncle was a mechanic, and I hung out in his shop. And my grandfather also was under cars. I was wondering what your dream car is, and what it was. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read your question here. I was wondering what is your dream car, and what was your first car? My first car was a freaking dude, this is like the 90s. Now you have to remember, we didn't have really fancy cars back in the 90s. I had a Chevy freaking Chevette, and then I ended up getting a 79 Camaro not too long after that. But the Chevy Chevette, that's what I got my license in. This thing was such a beater. Most of my friends, we all had beater cars back in the 90s. If you're a 90s and 80s baby, you know what I'm talking about. Not everybody was driving the IROC Zs, although that is one of my dream cars. But I had, a little beater. And then I got the Camaro from an old guy who lived not too far from me and my father. He drove that thing basically a mile a day, and I picked it up off of him for $1,000. But my dream car would either be an 87 IROC Z Camaro, or the 67 Shelby Mustang GT 500. I'm not into the new cars, the Nissans and the Hondas and imports. Thank you. That's the proper term I was thinking of. I'm more into American muscles, like the Novas, the classic Camaros, or the Mustangs, anything from 80 back. Those are the kind of cars. Dave, I don't know. What do you Are you a car dude or?
I wouldn't say I'm a car guy necessarily, but I had
That was a good question though.
It's a great question. My first car was a 92 Cavalier.
Dude, we all had the beaters, man. When we first
yeah.
cars today that kids are getting, and we all had beaters starting off back in the day.
Yeah, my first car was a 92 Cavalier, and then I didn't have a car for a while because when you live in
Cavalier, my buddy had a Cavalier.
Yeah, they were really popular.
They were very popular.
And really good cars.
Yeah.
And so I had that for a while, and then I didn't have a car for a while because when I was pursuing my career in the entertainment industry, when you live in Toronto, which is the 4th largest city in North America, transit, you can get your subway, streetcar, taxi, bus, it's fairly easy to do, right? But when I moved, I don't live right downtown. So when I'm sort of in the burbs, I got myself a Matrix, little Toyota Matrix, and then I graduated to the Lexus, and now I have a Challenger. So I do have a muscle car. I got a muscle car.
Here's Challenger.
I just got it not long ago. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember when I think a couple of streams ago, we were talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Remember when I was like, oh, I got to get a new car. I was getting so it's a 2019 Challenger. Yeah. So it's nothing crazy. Like I didn't get the Hellcat or anything like that. Cause I mean, really at the end of the day, I'm not a track guy. So it's not like, I'm not going to be busting down the highway doing 190. I mean, what am I going to, woo, you know what I mean? So it's, I didn't go crazy or anything, but it's a beautiful car and it's been a lot of fun to drive. And I've wanted a Challenger for a while. So it's fun. I'm having fun. I'm 40 and my girlfriend was like, well, if you're going to do it now because you don't want to turn 50 and you're going to look like you're having a midlife crisis. And I'm like, you're right. Okay, I'll do it.
Very good point. Yeah. So you want to do 2 more questions? Do 2 movie questions? You grab one, I'll snag one.
Sure. Yeah. We also have a super chat here from
Chris Paper.
Hey, Chris, you're awesome. Hate I'm missing the show because the wife has me landscaping. Oh, it's a good thing I'm married a damn model who buys me bacon. Great Myers pick, by the way, Tony. Watch this shit show on Simon.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chris was the guy. For those of you who are loving the Michael Myers features that I'm doing on Instagram, he was the guy that provided me with the Myers masks. So.
Yeah. Follow Tony on Instagram because he's got some awesome Myers shit that he is showing. So you guys got to check it out.
We got some more horror characters coming down the pipe. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome.
All right.
Let's
2
see.
questions. You grab one and I'll grab one.
All right. Let's do this here. Let's do this. Okay. Let me see here. I want to get one that's good that I haven't, maybe from somebody that hasn't, we haven't picked up yet. A lot of these are statements, not necessarily questions. That's a question that's pretty redundant. It's a car question. Let me scroll back down here. All right. Loggerhead says, what do you think of The Twilight Zone, 1959? Great question. Love the original Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zones, yeah.
Some episodes are better than others, as with a show like that, you're going to have some episodes that are hit and miss. But it's funny you mention that because my girlfriend and I were watching. I have a 60-inch TV in my in my bedroom. So I know it's a little overkill for the bedroom, but I love it. I'm a movie guy. So we were watching some old Twilight Zone episodes in bed one night, and I just love it. I love it. I think it's great. And so I'm a big fan of the Rod Sterling original Twilight Zone. Tony, what about you?
No, same here. In my rotation, most of you guys know one of my favorite shows is Cheers and Frasier and Friends, but Twilight Zone Twilight Zone is also in my rotation of old TV shows that I like to watch, along with the Munsters and Addams Family, and even the original Three Stooges. I like Shemp. Don't get me wrong. I do like Shemp, but I do like the original Larry, Curly, and Moe Stooges. Even though I think Shemp was there first and then left, and then the whole Three Stooges mythology, I mean, that in itself could be a great documentary that someone should do one day. But no, I do like the Twilight Zone. I do watch more old television shows like the ones that I just listed off versus I think the only current shows that I watch that would be current today would be like Cobra Kai and Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Ozark is another one that's current that I like, but not really, not into too many current TV shows.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
But no, Twilight Zone's some good shit. I like that. I like watching it during like the season, like, during like the September, October, autumn time of year to watch that shit.
Yeah.
All right. I had the question here, and now.
All right. Last question of the night.
Yeah. Hold on. I just had it. Dave, just keep talking while I find the question.
All right. Here's a question. Mangrove Pierce question. Dave, as a voice actor, if you were asked to voice the Joker for DC project or many, would you be excited for it? And what would be your approach? Would I be? Of course, I'd be excited for it. What would be my approach? Well, that would all come down to the vision of the director and the producers. They would have some notes for sure of how to approach this character, because I don't know a lot about the comic book universe. Obviously, what Joker am I going to be voicing? Is it the Joker from this part of the universe? Is it the Joker from that part of the universe? Is it the Joker from this comic book? Is it the Joker from this graphic novel? Because I understand, from my understanding, obviously, is it going to be like a Mark Hamill kind of Joker? Hello, that kind of thing, whatever the case is. Or is it more subdued and pulled back like a Heath Ledger kind of thing, right? So it all would depend on what they want me to do. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. Maybe I'm crazy up here. Yes. But maybe there's points where I'm down here like this. I don't know. I mean, it would all depend. They might say, nah, that's a little too Mark Hamill. We want to pull that back because we're going with this kind of Joker. Maybe it's a whole new Joker. So it would really depend on what the story notes or the character notes were going into it. And then they would tell me what they were thinking, and then I would tell them what I was thinking, and we would sort of come to a medium, and then I would get to work on helping to see what the character looks like as well. When you do animation, hopefully 9 times out of 10, you're in a position where you can be given the character's image of what the character looks like, and you can look at the character, and sometimes you can kind of look at the character, and if it's a little kind of funny looking guy that's kind of small, you can kind of get down here and you kind of become the character. So maybe I'm somebody that talks like this a little bit, because the character sort of looks like that, right?
You were like borderlining Cartman there for a second.
but
I thought that's where you were going with it.
No. But you can be. It all depends on Maybe I get the image of the Joker, and he's more like this, right? He's not like, if you look at the Mark Hamill Joker, if you actually look at what the character looks like, very loud, right? Like very sort of detailed with big features and eyes. So when Mark Hamill is going, when he's going, you can really see it. Like you can see it just in an image. If the Joker was presented to me in more of a subdued kind of look, I might go, oh, interesting. Let me see. Maybe he's more down here like this, or, I don't know. I mean, that's just off the cuff, right? It would all depend on finding that medium. There's a whole process. So that's sort of how it works. That's like voice acting 101. I could go really deep, but that's kind of the process of the beginning of approaching a character. You got to talk to the director, the producer, find out what they're thinking. You see an image, you might have to audition as well, right? So, but this was under the pretext of that I was already hired. So yeah.
I found the question.
Wonderful.
This one's from Smokey S. Do you think Deborah Hill would have loved the Halloween 2018, thinking it's the closest to the original because her last interview, she said H2O was the closest to it? Well, first of all, I don't want to put words into someone's mouth who's not here, obviously, to speak.
Sorry, say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I lost the question.
Oh, sorry, dude.
Wait, I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Smokey S. Do you think Deborah Hill would have loved Halloween 2018, thinking it's the closest to the original because in her last interview, she said H2O was the closest to it. Well, again, what I was starting to say there for a moment, I don't want to put words into someone's mouth who can't speak for themselves. And you have to remember at the time, H2O was probably, I think, the last film of the Halloween films before she passed away, unfortunately, that she was really a part of. So it's really tough to say. I'm sure she would have been delighted and loved to have been with the band, you know, Carpenter and Curtis. That would have been obviously in Nick Castle. That would have been a great treat for her. You know, and I'm sure she probably would have had, you know, maybe some type of influence on maybe a couple of the script, not so much. It would have been maybe like an overseer or something, or maybe she wrote in a couple of dialogues or whatever. Based on now, what I am going to say is based on listening to John Carpenter talk about the 2018 film. Carpenter and Hill are kind of like me and Dave. They tend to see things the same way. And I think she probably would have very much liked this new movie and definitely would have enjoyed it. And again, you know, saying that it's as close to the original. I mean, that's so tough because nothing is ever going to be as close to the original because the original is the original. It's what set this whole thing off that we all now love and appreciate 40 years later. I think she would have definitely had some involvement and really would have loved it. But again, I can't put words into someone's mouth who can't speak. But based on what I've seen in interviews past and listening to her talk, I think she totally would have been on, no pun on the totally, but she would have liked it. Dave, what do you think? How do you think she
Yes, I think she would have. I think she would have been towing the party line because that's just. I'm no, you know, disrespect to her, but that's what you do when millions of dollars are at stake and you're getting a paycheck and a cut. And it was certainly better than many of the sequels before it. You know, in terms of Rob Zombie's movies or you know, Resurrection or you know, Five, and although we have to remember that the director of Five was Deborah Hill's friend, and Deborah Hill recommended him to direct Five, so we have to remember that as well. But that being said, I think she just would have towed the party line. I think she would have been like, "Oh, this is so great, this is wonderful. It's so great to see Jamie," and going back to And now whether she thought that privately, I don't know, because people have to understand that I can tell you, having worked in this, and it's not that I'm dealing on the motion picture side of things, but working in this industry as long as I have, and dealing with the producers and going to the parties that I've been to and things like that, and I can certainly tell you that there's a
lot of ass in this industry to get.
There's a lot of, and there's a lot, and you can be, not everybody is, but you can be contractually obligated to talk positively about a movie, regardless of what you personally feel about it, because of how much money is at stake. Especially if you are the star of said film, you can think it's dog shit and a dog shit experience, but you can be contractually obligated to go on talk shows. It's part of your contract. Once the movie is done, part of the marketing is you go on Colbert and you go on Kimmel and you go on Foul. That's in your contract to do that, to help sell the movie. And it doesn't matter what you think privately. You go on there and you go, "Well, it was a great experience." And really, you may be able to get away with sort of talking kind of not so deeply about it. You just kind of talk generically about it. Perhaps you might be able to get away with that, but you can't say, "No, it was a piece of shit, I didn't really like it." You can't do that. So whether I guarantee you, she would have been like, "Oh yeah, it was a great experience. I love getting together with John again and seeing, you know, Jamie, and it was really fun. I think you guys are going to like what we've done. And oh, David's so talented."
I literally, like, that's pretty much how what she probably would have said. Yep. And the reason why I like that question and I took that is because you know, we don't mention it enough. You know, I mean, we talk about Carpenter, we praise him, and we talk about, you know, Dean Cundy's, you know, cinematography and Tommy Lee Wallace's, but she is a huge part to the success of this franchise and why it is where it is today. You cannot minimize her involvement in what she had a hand in when she worked with John in creating this, you know, ultimately where we are right now.
Well, and I think had she not died in 2005, because the internet was, for all intents and purposes, just coming out of its infancy. Okay, it was still pretty new. You know, Facebook, was only like a year old. No,
Oh, it was on college campuses.
it was on college campuses. YouTube was barely there. You know, there was no Twitter. So I mean, if she were alive today, I think she would be more revered, more respected, because she would be in the pop culture consciousness because of the reach of social media. I mean, look at the praise that John Carpenter gets through all of the conventions and the fandom and the I mean, she'd be going to conventions and she maybe, right? So I think she would get that respect
totally
now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She
Yeah. So
strikes me as someone that, you know, that embraces the fans and would love to just like, she just strikes me as that like cool aunt that you go to family gatherings and you can just sit down and just talk for fucking hours.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yep, I agree with that. So that's going to do it for us, for Tony and I on episode 18, I think it is, right? Episode 18, Two Dudes Bullshit. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. As always, Tony and I will be back next week, next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel, pending anything major that comes up where we will have to delay it by a day or a week, who knows, but you guys will always know that if you follow me on Facebook and if you follow me on I do post that kind of thing to my community section of YouTube as well. So you will be notified if anything changes, but if nothing does, this time next week, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll let you know what the topic is as the week moves along there. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about the Joker and the DCEU and sort of from that less emotional perspective.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. My hands were a little clammy and sweaty at the beginning during the stream here with a little anxiety. Oh, because, you know, I mean, this is a topic that I'm not well versed in, you know, especially when you get to the knee-deep comic stuff. So, but I think overall, I think we knocked this one out of the park and we did a good job.
I think we did. And thanks to everybody who tuned in and kept the chat room respectful, cordial. I like it when you guys debate, but it was nice to see some honest, sincere.
It was good.
Back and forth. Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff tonight.
So you guys have a great week, and I'll be back soon with another video shortly, and Tony and I will be back next week. So in the meantime and in between time, we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
Later.